Chapter 167. The dishes were all very light and suitable for people who had a cold. There was stir-fried fungus with lilies, stir-fried lettuce, broccoli with garlic, cold cucumber with a few drops of sesame oil, and a pot of thick millet porridge. Bailey Han even specially made cola chicken wings and deep-fried drumsticks for Xiao Yi. It had to be said that Bailey Han's cooking was very good. Even the picky Xiao Bao temporarily put aside his prejudice against him and ate with relish. The millet porridge not only warmed Xiaodong's stomach, but also warmed her heart. It was a very happy thing to have someone care about her when she was sick. However, in the next moment, she was a little distressed. Bailey Han's care was not something she could accept. Xiaodong was full after eating a bowl of millet porridge, so she put down the bowl and chopsticks. Bailey Han looked at her. "Do you want another bowl?" "No need, I'm full. You can eat slowly." After the meal, Xiaodong wanted to clear the dishes, but Bailey Han stopped her. "Sit down and rest. Remember to take your medicine in half an hour." He looked very professional, so Xiaodong couldn't interfere even if she wanted to. Gigai curled up on the sofa and watched him busy. He seemed to treat housework as a job. He was serious and serious, not allowing the slightest mistake. After washing the pots and pans, he even wiped the kitchen table clean. It had to be said that he looked very charming when he was serious. A man who did housework could also be very charming. Xiaodong supported her head with one hand. She didn't know where her thoughts had run off to. Xiao Bao's soft little body suddenly burrowed into her arms. He whispered, "Mom." Xiaodong carried him to her side and asked, "Baby, what's the matter?" Xiao Bao's voice was very low as he said mysteriously, "Mom, how did you break up with Bailey Han in the past?" Based on his recent observations, he realized that Bailey Han didn't seem like an irresponsible bad man. Of course, the most important thing was Xiao Yi's background. It made him more and more unsure if he should continue to hate Bailey Han. So, he wanted to figure out what was going on between his mommy and Bailey Han. Xiaodong glanced at Bailey Han, who was cutting fruits in the kitchen, and said in a low voice, "This is an adult's business. Little brat, don't worry about it." "Mom, I despise you. You always treat me like a 3-year-old. Xiao Bao shouted angrily. Bailey Han could not help but look up at the living room. All right, stop yelling." Xiaodong quickly covered his mouth and whispered, "Xiao Bao, don't let Bailey Han know that you and Xiao Guai are his children. Do you hear me?" Xiao Bao blinked. His eyes were full of questions, as if he was asking why. Xiaodong was helpless. She said softly, "Actually, I did something wrong to him in the past. He didn't do anything wrong to me, so you have to treat him better in the future." The fruit platter hit the glass table and made a crisp sound. Bailey Han's voice came from above. "What are you whispering about? Eat some fruit." Xiaodong looked up and smiled dryly. "I'm saying that Xiao Bao should treat you better because you're his elder. Isn't that right, Xiao Bao?" Her hand secretly pinched Xiao Bao lightly. Xiao Bao pouted unwillingly. "That's right, Uncle Bailey. Uncle Bailey." Bailey Han's mouth twitched. Why did he suddenly feel that he was very old? After eating the fruit, Bailey Han sat beside the mother and son. He picked up a newspaper and started reading. He looked like he was going to stay for a long time. 10 minutes passed. Bailey Han was still reading the newspaper seriously. Xiaodong and Xiao Bao looked at each other. Finally, Xiaodong coughed and said, "Bailey Han, aren't you going back to the company in the afternoon?" Bailey Han looked at the newspaper and said calmly, "I've already arranged for the company's matters." "Then you're not busy?" "No." Bailey Han looked up at her. "Are you asking me to leave?" No. Why would I?" Xiaodong waved her hand and smiled. "I just think that you're the big boss of the company. You must have a lot of things to do. It's good that you're not busy. It's good that you're not busy." Xiao Bao rolled her eyes. She despised her mother in her heart. Bailey Han wasn't a monster. Why did she look like she was afraid of him? Bailey Han's lips curled up slightly. He looked at his watch. It was almost time. He poured a glass of warm water and took out some cold medicine. He placed it in front of Xiaodong. "Take the medicine." "Okay." Xiaodong looked like she was going to die a martyr's death. She swallowed the pill. Bailey Han actually took out a chocolate from his pocket and handed it to her. Xiaodong was petrified. Bailey Han felt a little uncomfortable under her stare. He coughed and explained, Xiaoyi likes to eat chocolate. Actually, he gave this to me. Oh. Xiaodong peeled the chocolate and stuffed it into her mouth. There were only a few key words left in her mind. Xiaoyi gave it to him. After she took the medicine, he reminded her, You rest at home. I'm going to the hospital to visit Xiao Guai. I want to go too. Xiaodong jumped down from the sofa. Be good. You have a cold now. Who knows if you'll pass the virus to Xiao Guai? Why don't you rest at home and then go to the hospital to visit her? Bailey Han called out to Xiao Bao. Xiao Bao, look after your mommy. Don't let her run around. Xiaodong was unhappy. Hey, what do you mean run around? I'm not a child. Bailey Han chuckled. In my eyes, Xiao Bao is more reliable than you. Xiao Bao nodded seriously. Uncle Bailey, I strongly agree with you on this point. Xiaodong was in tears. She was completely despised by the father and son. In the end, Xiaodong couldn't persuade Bailey Han. Xiao Bao kept pestering her and she didn't go to the hospital to visit Xiao Guai. Bailey Han played with Xiao Guai in the hospital for more than an hour. After she fell asleep, he went to the company. Before he got off work, he called Xiaodong. What do you want to eat tonight? Xiaodong was shocked. He wouldn't come to help her cook again, right? She quickly said, I'll just make some porridge tonight. Don't trouble yourself. Seeing her so fearful, Bailey Han was speechless. Forget it. He'd do as he saw fit. He looked at the time and said, You don't have to make food. I'll buy it on the way and bring it over. I'll be at your place around 6. After work, Bailey Han drove to a private restaurant and took away the food that he had ordered in advance. The fragrant stewed beef brisket with tomatoes, the milky white ginseng chicken soup, and the green vegetables were placed on the table. Xiaodong and Xiao Bao couldn't help but exclaim, It smells so good. Bailey Han smiled when he saw their satisfied expressions. He picked up his jacket and said, Xiao Bao, remember to remind your mommy to take her medicine half an hour after dinner. Perhaps it was because of what Xiaodong said at noon, or because Bailey Han's role as the good guy was too deeply rooted in people's hearts, Xiao Bao's impression of him had changed greatly. He nodded and said, I know. Bailey Han smiled and touched his head. Then he looked at Xiaodong. I'm leaving first. I've already told the hospital. Xiaodong said, Aren't you going to eat with us? His lips curved and his smile became gentler. I promised Xiao Yi that I would go home and have dinner with him every day. Oh, okay. Be careful on the road. Xiaodong walked him to the door. He suddenly put his arm around her shoulders and lowered his head to get closer to her. You. Xiaodong panicked and reached out to push him away. He was very strong. Her struggles were useless in front of him. He continued to get closer to her and kissed her forehead gently. He whispered, Rest well. Don't make me worry. Xiaodong's delicate face flushed red. He chuckled. I like to see you shy. Ah, how could he say something so shameless? Her heart pounded. Finally, she blushed and squeezed out 2 words from between her teeth. Pervert, he laughed deeply. His voice was full of pleasure. She glared at him. What are you laughing at? Hurry up and leave. I'll leave immediately. But you have to promise me that you'll remember to miss me. He liked to tease her and see her angry face. As expected, Xiaodong was angry. Bailey Han, I order you to get out of my sight immediately. Was the world going crazy? Bailey Han had always been expressionless. Why was he teasing her so blatantly? Was he possessed by Bailey Yun? All right, I was just joking. Don't be angry. Bailey Han knew when to stop. He rubbed her hair and smiled warmly. Hurry up and go in. The food will get cold soon. Xiaodong, who felt bullied by him, didn't even say goodbye. She closed the door and leaned against it to calm her nerves that were about to break down. Thanks to Bailey Han's meticulous care, Xiaodong recovered from her cold the next day and continued to live a lively and valiant life. Xiao Guai's illness was also much better. The doctor said that she could be discharged in 2 days. Of course, she still had to undergo chemotherapy on time to control her condition. On the day Xiao Guai was discharged, Xia Dong brought Xiao Bao and Bai Li Han brought Xiao Yi. The four of them brought her home. Her face was as white as snow. She wore a mask and her small and soft body seemed to have lost a lot of weight. Her pair of beautiful eyes blinked as if they could speak. On the way, Xia Dong felt that something was wrong with Xiao Yi. He sat in the back corner expressionlessly and seemed to be very angry. Xia Dong turned around and whispered to Bai Li Han, "What's wrong with Xiao Yi? He seems unhappy." Bai Li Han also whispered, "I'm not sure either." Xia Dong glared at him. "How can you be his daddy?" He smiled and said half-jokingly, "Since you're worried, why don't you be his mommy? It'll make it easier for you to supervise me." Xia Dong couldn't be bothered with him. Xiao Guai, who was in Xia Dong's arms, was so happy that her eyes narrowed into slits. She giggled and said, "Mommy, Uncle Bailey, I heard you. Little one, look at how capable you are." Xia Dong was amused and kissed her daughter on the cheek. Bai Li Han chuckled. "Xiao Guai, do you agree with Uncle Bailey's suggestion?" Add Song Shu 566. Chapter 168. Xiao Guai blinked her big beautiful eyes and pondered seriously. "But if Mommy becomes Brother Yi's mommy, won't I have to marry Uncle?" Xia Dong said nervously, "Xiao Guai, don't say any more." Bai Li Han glanced at Xiao Guai. "Yeah, that's right." Xiao Guai let out an "oh," and her next words almost made Bai Li Han vomit blood. She said, "Then I can't agree to it. I want Uncle Shen to be my daddy." Bai Li Han's face darkened. "Why?" "Because Uncle Shen loves my mommy a lot." Xia Dong's face darkened. "You little brat, what do you know about love? Don't talk nonsense." "I'm not talking nonsense. Mommy, if you don't believe me, you can ask brother." Xiao Guai turned her little head to look at the back seat and shouted, "Brother, brother, am I right?" Although their conversation was soft, it couldn't be hidden from Xiao Yi and Xiao Bao who were sitting in the back seat. Xiao Yi's face darkened and she clenched her fists in anger. Xiao Bao was speechless at their conversation, but he couldn't dampen his sister's spirits, so he could only nod. "Look, Mommy. Brother agrees with me." Xia Dong said helplessly, "Yes, yes. You're the best." Bai Li Han was very unhappy. Mika Keto occupied a very important position in the children's hearts. It wasn't easy to defeat him. From the time Xiao Yi went to the hospital to pick up Xiao Guai until the time he and Bai Li Han left Xia Dong's house, he didn't say a word or smile. The way he looked at Xia Dong frightened her. It wasn't a look that a 4-year-old child should have. It was filled with deep resentment. Whenever Xia Dong thought of the look in his eyes when he left, she would feel flustered. Could it be that he had discovered something? The next day, he told Xia Dong the answer himself. He suddenly appeared alone in front of Xia Dong's house. Xia Dong heard a knock on the door. She opened the door but did not see anyone. Just as she was about to close the door, she heard Xiao Yi's cold voice. "I'm downstairs." She lowered her head and indeed saw Xiao Yi standing at the door. His handsome little face was covered with a layer of frost and his dark eyes were staring at her sharply. "Xiao Yi, why are you here alone?" Xia Dong was surprised and invited him in with a smile. He strode over with his short legs and sat on the sofa obediently. He looked at her coldly. "I have something to tell you." Xia Dong poured a glass of fruit juice for him and sat across from him. "Xiao Yi, what do you want to tell me?" Xiao Yi's eyes revealed a deep resentment and he asked word by word, "Why did you abandon me?" Xia Dong's breathing suddenly stopped and her heart almost stopped beating. She gritted her teeth fiercely and came back to her senses. She forced a smile. "Xiao Yi, what are you talking about?" "Auntie doesn't understand." He suddenly became angry and his little face flushed red. He said fiercely, "Stop pretending. I've tested our DNA and I know you're my mommy." Xia Dong's head exploded and her body trembled violently. She leaned against the sofa and her face was as pale as snow. "I'm asking you, why did you abandon me?" In order to get an answer today, he had snuck over to ask her while Daddy was at work. Xia Dong's lips trembled and her face was full of pain. "I'm sorry, Xiao Yi." "I'm sorry." Xiao Yi jumped off the sofa angrily and walked in front of her. He looked up and stared at her coldly. "I want to know the answer. Why did you abandon me?" "I'm sorry." Xia Dong bent down to hug him. Xiaoyi, I'm sorry. I love you. I didn't abandon you on purpose. I really have my reasons. He couldn't dodge in time and was hugged tightly by her. Her embrace was so fragrant and warm. Every time he was lonely, he wanted someone to hug him like this, but she never appeared. Tears welled up in his eyes. Why did you abandon me? Why did you abandon me? Do you know how pitiful it is to be a child without a mommy? I'm sorry, I'm sorry. Xia Dong was already sobbing. She hugged him tightly and apologized repeatedly. Why did you abandon me? You're the one who abandoned me. Xiao Yi was full of resentment. I'm the same as Xiao Bao and Xiao Guai. We're both your children. How could you treat me like this? How could you treat me like this? Xiao Yi became more and more agitated as he spoke. He finally burst into tears and pounded his chest with his fists. I hate you. I hate you. Xiao Yi, listen to Mommy. Mommy loves you. I really didn't abandon you on purpose. Hearing him say that he hated her, Xia Dong's heart ached so much that her tears fell. I don't believe you anymore. I won't believe you anymore. I hate you. I'll never forgive you. Little Wingzi cried loudly. His tears were like a broken string of pearls as they rolled down his face. His cries were like sharp knives cutting into Xia Dong's heart. She couldn't help but wail. Their cries alerted Xiao Bao and Xiao Guai. Xiao Bao walked towards them step by step. He couldn't believe it. Mommy, is Bailey Yi really your child? Xia Dong cried even louder. She hugged Xiao Yi tightly in her arms as if this could make up for the 4 years of motherly love she had missed. Mommy, does this mean that Brother Yi is also my biological brother? Uncle Bailey is our daddy? It took a long time for Xiao Guai to react. A trace of blood appeared on her pale face as she muttered. So, Big Brother and I also have a daddy, Xiao Yi cried and struggled hard. Let go of me. I'm never going to talk to you again. Xiao Yi. I hate you, let go of me. Bailey Yi hammered her arm with all his might, his pair of short legs kicking her forcefully. Xiao Bao widened her eyes in shock and shouted, Bailey Yi, don't hit Mommy. She's pregnant. You'll hurt her and the baby. Bailey Yi stopped kicking, but his cries did not stop. Xia Dong had no choice but to let go of him. His eyes were red and his face was covered in tears. He glared at Xia Dong hatefully. I'm leaving. I'll never see you again. He ran to the door and tiptoed to open it. Xia Dong chased after him, but his small body shot into the elevator like a cannonball. By the time Xia Dong ran down the stairs, he had already disappeared. Xia Dong was worried and called Bailey Han. In order not to expose the truth, she could only tell him to pay more attention to Xiao Yi's movements. She felt that something was wrong with him. Bailey Han received Xia Dong's call and immediately called the villa. After the butler received the call, he ran upstairs to look for Bailey Yi, but he was nowhere to be seen. The butler anxiously reported, young master is missing. His car is also missing. Bailey Han took his coat and walked out of the office while making a call. He calmly ordered, pull up the surveillance video outside the villa and see when he disappeared. By the time Bailey Han returned to the villa, the butler had already ordered a group of servants to go out and look for him. Bailey Han watched the video and found that Xiao Yi ran away from home on his car 2 hours ago. He immediately contacted Xia Dong. Xia Dong, Xiao Yi ran away from home. I called his cell phone but he didn't answer. Did he contact you? Xia Dong's pupils suddenly shrank. She hesitated and lied. Xiao Yi came to my place more than an hour ago. He said that he was here to see Xiao Guai. I saw that his expression was a little strange, so I called you and asked you to pay more attention. Do you know which direction he went? Xia Dong said guiltily, I'm sorry. He left in a hurry. When I went downstairs, he was already gone. It's okay. It's none of your business. Can you let me know if you have any news? Okay, I'll hang up first. Xiao Yi had only been missing for 2 hours. Even if a police report was filed, the police station would not accept it. Bailey Han used his connections to ask the police chief to pay more attention. Then, he mobilized the Dragon Gang's forces to search the entire city for Xiao Yi's whereabouts. Xia Dong anxiously paced back and forth in the room. Xiao Bao couldn't stand it anymore. He pursed his lips and said, Mom, there's no use for you to be anxious. You have to believe in Bailey Han's ability. He will definitely find Xiao Yi. Moreover, Xiao Yi is so smart. He won't be in any danger. Xia Dong sighed. I know that he's smart, but no matter how smart he is, he's only a 4-year-old child. If he really meets bad people, how can he fight against them? Xiao Bao still wanted to persuade her, but she suddenly shook her head and said, I can't wait any longer. Xiao Bao, do you know where Xiao Yi likes to go? Xiao Guai raised his arm and said in a childish voice, Mommy, I know. Brother Yi likes zoos and amusement parks. Gigai is so smart. Xia Dong patted her daughter's head and asked Xiao Bao, do you have a different answer? Xiao Bao thought for a moment. And the beach. Xia Dong texted the 2 children's guesses to Bailey Han. She also decided to go to the beach to try her luck. Because she was worried that something would happen to Gigai when she wasn't home, Xia Dong armed her to the teeth. She took the 2 children with her to the beach to look for Xiao Yi. The sunset was quiet and calm on the beach in the evening. The sea washed over the beach. From time to time, shells and small fish were stranded on the shore. Xia Dong put a sun hat on Xiao Guai. She carried her and looked around the beach, hoping to find Xiao Yi. Xiao Bao walked beside her and craned his neck from time to look here and there. He was also a little anxious. Although he used to hate Bailey Yi, when he found out that Bailey Yi was his brother, his rejection of Bailey Yi lessened a lot. He even slowly began to accept him. Mom, you and Xiao Bao are over here. I'll go over there and take a look. Xiao Bao pointed at a rocky mountain. I don't think so. Let's go over together. The rocky mountain looked a little steep. What if Xiao Bao got into an accident? The 3 of them walked over to the rocky mountain. Xia Dong looked at her feet seriously and didn't notice what was in front of her. Suddenly, she heard her daughter exclaim, Hey, Mommy, isn't that Uncle Lin? Who's the auntie with him? Welfare, Hongcha 866. Chapter 169. Xia Dong looked up and saw a couple walking towards them with their backs to the setting sun. The man was Lin Shihao, and the woman was Bai Mei Wei. Bai Mei Wei was wearing a long white dress, and her long hair was draped over her shoulders. Her long dress swayed gently in the sea breeze. She was very beautiful, like a fairy descending into the mortal world. The 2 of them had their heads lowered and seemed to be talking about something. They didn't notice Xia Dong and the others. Xia Dong's eyes moved. She carried her daughter with one hand and pulled Xiao Bao with the other, and they hid behind a huge rock. The 2 of them gradually walked towards them. When they passed by the rock, Xia Dong heard their conversation. Bai Mei Wei said, Senior, thank you for coming here with me. I feel much better now. Lin Shihao said, the patient passed away, and the family members are upset. They said a few unpleasant things. Don't take it to heart. Bai Mei Wei smiled. Senior, I really admire you. You don't seem to get angry no matter what happens. Lin Shihao also smiled. Really? I'm not a god. How can I not be angry? Bai Mei Wei smiled brightly. You are like a god in my heart. It seems like nothing can stump you. You're exaggerating. The sound of their conversation gradually faded away. Xia Dong walked out from behind the rock. She felt a little uncomfortable, but she quickly comforted herself. Maybe she was thinking too much. They were just normal friends. Vixen. Xiao Bao puffed up his cheeks and snorted. Xiao Bao, don't talk nonsense. I'm not talking nonsense. That woman is obviously not a good person. Xiao Bao hated women who seduced other people's men. So annoying. Xia Dong rubbed his head speechlessly. Let's hurry and find Xiao Yi. Mommy, I want to get down. I want to walk on my own. Xiao Guai whined in her arms. Gigai, it's not easy to walk on the beach. Mommy should carry you. But I don't want to tire out the little brother in Mommy's stomach. Xiao Guai obediently hugged her neck and said, Mommy, I promise I'll be careful when I walk. Mom, let Gigai down. I'll take care of Gigai, Xiao Bao promised as he patted his chest. All right then. You all have to be careful. Xia Dong put Xiao Guai down and watched as the siblings walked forward hand in hand. They searched the beach for more than half an hour, but they didn't find Xiao Yi. Instead, they bumped into a few men in black. They held Xiao Yi's photo and asked around if anyone had seen this child. Xia Dong knew that they were from Bailey Han. On the other side, Bailey Han also drove to the place where he had gone with Xiao Yi to search, but he didn't find any good news. The sun was about to set. In a park, a child was sitting on a bench with an expressionless face. Beside him was an advanced children's scooter. The phone in his pocket kept ringing, so he finally turned it off. "Hey, little brat. Is this scooter yours? Lend me your scooter to play with." A group of 7 or 8-year-old children walked over with their arms around each other's shoulders. The tallest child among them asked arrogantly. Xiao Yi was in a bad mood and didn't want to pay attention to them. He coldly looked at them and didn't answer. "Hey, little brat, our boss is talking to you. Why don't you answer? Are you mute?" Xiao Yi coldly snorted. His eyes were full of disdain. "Hey, this damn brat, are you looking for a beating? Su'er, drag his scooter to me." The child who was called boss was angry. Xiao Yi jumped off the bench and stood in front of his scooter. He coldly said, "Get lost." The child called Su'er shouted, "Brat, you have no manners. You must have a mother who gave birth to you and didn't teach you." Xiao Yi was poked in his wound. His anger flared up. His eyes were like sharp knives. He stared at the child who spoke and clenched his fists. "Say that again if you have the guts." "Humph, you little brat, you still want to teach me a lesson? I'll say it again. Do you think I don't dare? I said you have no manners. You have a mother who gave birth to you and didn't teach you." There were a total of 5 people. Each of them was taller and stronger than Xiao Yi. They didn't put this little brat in their eyes. "Go to hell." Xiao Yi angrily rushed forward. Although he was small, he was very strong. He had learned a few moves from the bodyguards at home. He punched and kicked Su'er. Su'er was kicked in the stomach and cried out in pain. "Boss, this damn brat is quite powerful." The child next to him interjected, "Should we help Su'er? Isn't that nonsense? Let's all go together and teach this stinking brat a lesson." The 5 children rushed forward together. Xiao Yi was surrounded in the middle. He was like an enraged little beast. He stared at them fiercely. The hatred in his eyes made the child closest to him tremble. He subconsciously took a step back. "You are too useless. You are afraid of this little brat." The leader of the children slapped the head of the cowardly child. He was the first to rush forward. He bent down and grabbed Xiao Yi's clothes. He fiercely said, "Brat, you hurt my brother. I will teach you a lesson." Bah! Xiao Yi spat on his face. "I am so angry." The leader of the children wiped the saliva on his face and slapped Xiao Yi's cheek. Little Wingzi tilted his head and dodged the man's slap. Little Wingzi then kicked the man's leg. The man cried out in pain and shouted at the 4 people who were still in a daze, "Don't just stand there. Attack!" Oh! The 5 of them grabbed Xiao Yi's arms, legs, and directly hugged him from behind. Slaps and fists fell like raindrops. "Little brat, quickly beg us for mercy. We will let you go." Xiao Yi's face was bruised, but his expression was stubborn. He didn't let them go. His eyes were sharp and cold. He couldn't wait to pounce on them and bite them to death. "What are you doing? Let him go." Suddenly, there was a fierce roar. The 5 children looked up and saw a woman running towards them with a face full of anger. They immediately let go of Xiao Yi and ran away like a swarm of bees. After returning from the beach, Xia Dong drove to a few more places, but she couldn't find Xiao Yi. She was about to go crazy from anxiety. In the end, she saw Xiao Guai leaning against the chair and falling asleep. She had no choice but to take the children home. When she passed by the park, she suddenly had an idea. This was very close to her neighborhood, so Xiao Yi might be here. Thus, she parked the car by the roadside and asked Xiao Bao to take care of the sleeping Xiao Guai. She ran in to try her luck. Unexpectedly, she saw a group of children bullying Xiao Yi from afar, so she rushed over to scold them. She didn't expect to see Xiao Yi with a face full of injuries. "Xiao Yi, don't be afraid. I will take you to the hospital right away." Xia Dong's heart almost stopped beating. She pounced on him to hug him, but he pushed her away. He said coldly, "Go away. I don't need you to care about me." Xia Dong's nose twitched. She choked and said, "Do you know that because you went missing, we were all very worried? Your daddy is still looking for you everywhere. How can you be so willful?" he said coldly. I'm willful? That's because I was born to a mother and raised by no mother. His words were like a sharp knife stabbing into her body, and it hurt her to the core. Tears welled up in her eyes, and she dug her nails into her palms. Okay, you can hate me. But if you are so willful, how can you face Daddy who loves you? Xiao Gigai, listen to me and let me take you to the hospital, okay? She said the last sentence almost in a pleading tone. His dark eyes moved, and he stared deeply into her quietly crying eyes. His heartless words cut into her heart. You have never cared about me since I was born. I don't want you to care about me now, and I don't want you to care about me in the future. I will treat it as if my mommy is already dead. Tears streamed down her face. He flung her hand away and walked to his scooter. Just as he was about to step onto the scooter, Xia Dong rushed over and quickly picked him up. Let go of me, let go of me. Xiaoyi struggled and screamed. He even bit her arm with his teeth, but he didn't kick her. I won't let go. I won't let go. Even if you hate me, I will take you to the hospital. Xia Dong said as she walked quickly with Xiao Yi in her arms. Xiao Yi was much heavier than Xiao Guai. When they reached the entrance of the park, Xia Dong was already tired, but she still gritted her teeth and carried him to her car. Bow bow, I will put Xiao Yi in the back seat. Look after him. Xia Dong put Xiao Yi in the back seat and instructed Xiao Bao. Xiao Yi was in a sorry state. His face was injured, and the corner of his mouth was red and swollen. Xiao Bao's pupils contracted when he saw him like this. He desperately grabbed onto him as he tried to escape and said angrily, Don't be so childish, okay? Behave yourself. The car door slammed shut and Xia Dong started the car. Xiao Yi wanted to escape, but he didn't have the chance. He gradually calmed down. Xiao Bao sighed in relief and poked his arm with his finger. There was concern in his voice that even he didn't notice. What happened to your injuries? Did you get into a fight with someone? Little Wingzi hissed in pain when his finger poked Little Wingzi's arm. Xiao Bao quickly retracted his finger. Is your arm hurt too? Xiao Yi made a soft sound and turned his little face away awkwardly. He didn't want to talk to him. Xiao Bao's eyes darted around. He suddenly thought of something and dug around in his little backpack. He pulled out a tube of ointment, twisted the cap and said, Turn your head around. Xiao Yi snorted and ignored him. I told you to turn your head around. You're so awkward. Xiao Bao didn't dare to casually pull him for fear of touching his wound. However, Xiao Yi didn't want to cooperate, so he had no choice but to be magnanimous and move to the other side of him. He applied some ointment on the ointment with his small finger and reached out to Xiao Yi's eyes. Xiao Yi frowned. What are you trying to do? Welfare, Xinwu 799. Chapter 170. Xiao Bao rolled his eyes. You're stupid. Isn't it obvious that I'm going to help you apply medicine? Don't move. Xiao Yi's eyes flickered, but he really didn't dodge. Xiao Bao was very serious as he gently rubbed the medicine on his wound bit by bit. Xia Dong saw through the rearview mirror that Xiao Bao was applying medicine for Xiao Yi, and Xiao Yi didn't struggle or resist. Her mood instantly improved. No matter what, there was still affection between the two children. Xiao Yi wouldn't be so lonely in the future. Bailey Han quickly arrived at the hospital. Xia Dong and the others were sitting on a bench in the corridor. The injuries on Xiao Yi's face had already been treated. The corner of his mouth was the most serious, red and swollen. The sleeves of both of his arms were rolled up high, revealing patches of bruises and bruises. His heart ached and he was angry. It took him a long time to control his anger. He asked in a low voice, Why did you run away from home? Xiao Yi hung his head. I didn't run away from home. I just wanted to have some peace and quiet outside before going home. Peace and quiet. Bailey Han didn't know whether to laugh or cry at his mature thinking. He frowned and said, How did you end up like this? Did you get into a fight with someone? Yeah. He was honest and admitted his guilt. Bailey Han looked stern. Why did you get into a fight? Xiao Yi looked up at him. His eyes were covered with a layer of mist. They wanted to take my scooter and said that I was a child who had a mother but didn't raise her. Bailey Han's belly full of reprimanding words were all blocked. His throat was unbearably dry. Xia Dong wasn't any better. Her heart was full of bitterness. Bailey Han was silent for a while. He raised his hand and patted Xiao Yi's head. Don't get into fights again. You don't have a mother, but you still have Daddy. Don't make Daddy worry again, okay? Aha! Xiao Yi nodded. The tears in her eyes fell onto her lap and onto Xiaodong's heart. Good girl. Bailey Han held him in his arms and carefully avoided his wound. He said softly, Daddy will take you home. Xiao Yi lay in Bailey Han's arms and replied softly, Bailey Han looked at Xiaodong and said, Xiaodong, I'll take Xiao Yi home first. I'm very grateful for what you did today. Xiaodong stood up and forced a smile. You're welcome. We're going back too. Take good care of Xiao Yi. The next day, Xiaodong called Bailey Han to ask about Xiao Yi. Bailey Han's voice sounded a little gloomy. Xiao Yi caught a cold after coming back last night. Xiaodong hesitated for a moment. Can I go over to see him? Of course. I happen to be busy this morning and can't take care of him. I'll have to trouble you to take care of him on my behalf. Bailey Han was very happy to see her and Xiao Yi getting along well. Xiaodong sent Xiao Guai and Xiao Bao to her aunt's house and went to the supermarket to buy a lot of things. By the time she drove to Bailey's house, it was already past 10 o'clock. The sun was shining brightly and she was sweating profusely as she rung the things at the front door. The butler found out from Bailey Han that Xiaodong was coming and was already waiting at the door. When he saw her, he hurried over and helped her carry the things. Miss Xia, it's good that you're here. Why did you buy so many things? Xiaodong smiled. They're all fresh vegetables and fruits. Come in quickly. It's too hot outside. The butler asked a servant to ring the things and invited Xiaodong in. He also served her fresh fruit juice. Butler, how's Xiao Yi doing now? Little Master had a high fever last night. Dr. Su gave him an 4 drip and his fever went down this morning. He's sleeping soundly now. Can I go up and see him? Of course. Miss Xia, this way please. The butler had already received orders from Bailey Han that no matter what requests Xiaodong had, he had to satisfy her. This was the first time Xiaodong had walked into Xiao Yi's room in the villa. It was similar to the room in the old mansion. Other than the height of the furniture, it was decorated a little like an adult's room. Even the bedding was dark and did not look like a child's room at all. Xiaodong immediately felt that Bailey Han was a failure as a father. From her expression, the butler could sense her dissatisfaction. He wiped the sweat from his forehead and said, Miss Xia, the room's layout was actually ordered by Little Master. It doesn't look like a child's room. Their Little Master was a famous little old man. Miss Xia, I'll go down first. Take your time to look around. On the bed, Xiao Yi was curled up into a small ball. It was a position where he did not feel safe. There was an uneasy expression on his face. His handsome eyebrows were knitted together and his thin lips were tightly pursed. He looked like he was suffering in his sleep. Xiao Yi. Xiaodong did not dare to speak too loudly for fear of waking him up. She softly called his name and gently stroked his eyebrows with her fingers. Mommy. Mommy. He seemed to be having a nightmare. Suddenly, a frightened expression appeared on his face and he muttered, Mommy. Don't abandon me. Xiaodong held his hand and said softly, Baby, Mommy is here. Mommy won't abandon you. I won't abandon you. Xiao Yi seemed to hear her comforting voice and gradually calmed down. Xiaodong bit her lip and used her other hand to pull the blanket up a little to cover him. When she wanted to quietly pull her hand out, Xiao Yi moved his body uneasily. She could only let him hold her hand. She stroked her son's hair and softly sang a nursery rhyme. His breathing gradually stabilized and he fell into a deep sleep. Just like that, more than an hour passed. When it was almost lunchtime, Xiaodong gently pulled her hand out of her son's and quietly walked out of the room. The moment she pulled her hand out, Xiao Yi woke up. When he opened his eyes, he happened to see her getting up and leaving. Was she going to abandon him again? This thought surged in his mind. His chest felt like it was going to explode. He turned his back to her and quietly cried. Xiaodong stood at the door. She took one last look at Xiao Yi and gently closed the door. In the kitchen downstairs, the chef was busy. When he saw Xiaodong come in, he hurriedly said, Miss Xia, quickly go out. The smell of cooking oil is too strong here. Xiaodong smiled. Leave lunch to me today. The chef was stunned. How can this be? You're a guest. Xiaodong snatched the kitchen knife from his hand. I'm here to take care of Xiao Yi today. I'm not a guest. The chef had no choice but to let her have the kitchen. When she went out, she bumped into the butler. Just as she was about to say something, the butler shushed her and said in a low voice, Young master agreed to this. You can go do other things. The butler had a deep understanding of Bailey Han's thinking. When Xiaodong came out of the kitchen, there was not a single servant in the villa. It was as if only she and Xiao Yi were left. Although Xiaodong felt that it was a little strange, she did not think too much about it. After washing her hands, she went upstairs to call Xiao Yi for lunch. Xiao Yi was lying on the bed with his back to the door. She called out to him softly. She didn't leave? Xiao Yi tensed up and pricked up his ears. He heard her approach the bed and sit down beside him. She gently stroked his hair. Xiao Yi, get up and eat. You can sleep after eating, okay? His body froze and he turned around to look at her. His dark eyes were filled with complicated emotions. Be good. Get up and eat. Xiaodong carried him from the bed and smiled gently. Do you want me to carry you downstairs or do you want to walk downstairs yourself? He was very greedy for her embrace, but he still pushed her away and said coldly, I said I don't want to see you. She was very hurt, but the smile on her face did not change. I'll leave after you finish eating. Xiao Yi, don't hurt your body because you're angry with me, okay? He looked at her quietly, and she looked at him quietly. Finally, he turned his face away and said coldly, I want to get out of bed. Okay, I'll get some clothes for you. Xiaodong put him down on the bed and took a jacket from the changing room for him to put on. When they went downstairs, he walked in front of her with his head held high and his chest out. He walked carefully step by step. Although most of the dishes on the table were vegetarian, they were all his favorite dishes. The sour cold fern root powder whetted his appetite as soon as it entered his mouth. She had also made fragrant and sweet corn porridge. After the meal, there was also a small dessert. Stewed double-skin milk. However, she had only prepared a small portion, so he didn't eat to his heart's content at all. Seeming to know his dissatisfaction, she smiled and explained, You're sick, so you shouldn't eat too much. I'll make a few more desserts later and put them in the fridge. You can eat them at night, but you can't eat too much. It's not good for your health if you eat too much at night. He curled his lips coldly. Okay, I got it. You're so long-winded. She smiled and let him play in the living room for a while. She cleared the table and was about to wash it when a maid appeared out of nowhere and said, Miss Xia, I'll wash it. Okay, I'll have to trouble you then. Xiaodong didn't stand on ceremony and went to the living room to accompany Xiao Yi. Xiao Yi sat on the sofa and watched the television, ignoring her existence. She took the chessboard over and said, Xiao Yi, play chess with me, okay? He looked at her coldly. Do you know how to play chess? She smiled sheepishly. It's such a high IQ game. Of course. I don't. Then what do you want to play? Actually, she didn't want to play chess at all. She just wanted to get closer to him. She blinked. Gamoku. He sneered. Boring. She laughed dryly. That's true. Forget it then. He took the black stones nonchalantly. I'll take the white stones and you take the black stones. You go first. Oh, okay. The corners of Xiaodong's lips curled up slightly. The mother and son pair laid on the small table and started to play chess. The black stones had a great advantage, but Xiaodong still couldn't beat Xiao Yi. Xiao Yi mocked her. You're so stupid. I already have 3 stones here. Why don't you block me? Instead, you're wasting your stones here? Xiao Yi is so smart. Xiaodong wasn't angry at all. Instead, she smiled and praised him. He snorted coldly, and his ears were tinged with a faint pink color. After playing chess for more than an hour, Xiaodong urged Xiao Yi to take his medicine and wanted to send him upstairs for an afternoon nap. He refused. He had slept for so long in the morning and didn't want to sleep anymore. Welfare, Song Shu 566. Chapter 171. She had planned to go to the kitchen to make dessert while he was taking a nap. Since he didn't want to sleep, she bent down and asked him, I'm going to make cookies and cakes. Do you want to help? He curled his lips coolly with a look of disdain. No. Xiaodong didn't take it to heart. She smiled and said, "Then you play by yourself. I'm going to the kitchen." Xiaodong first inspected the villa's kitchen. The ovens, cake molds, biscuit molds, egg splitters, measuring cups, and other utensils needed to make cakes and biscuits were all very complete. Coupled with the other ingredients she had bought, it was very easy to make delicious cakes and biscuits. First, she planned to make Xiao Yi's favorite chocolate chestnut cake. She cut the butter and dark chocolate into small pieces and put them into a bowl with fine sugar and milk. She heated it over water and stirred it continuously until it completely melted and turned into a liquid. Then, she beat the eggs and poured them into the chocolate mixture. She mixed them evenly, then added flour, cocoa powder, and baking powder, and mixed them evenly into cake batter. She put the batter into a grinding tool and baked it for later use. Next, she made the chestnut cream filling. Sifting the chestnuts was a very time-consuming task. Xiaodong worked for about half an hour before she finished sifting the ripe chestnuts into chestnuts. She sighed deeply and rubbed her aching waist. She inadvertently looked up and saw Xiao Yi standing at the kitchen door. When their eyes met, Xiao Yi felt as though someone had caught her in a pigtail. She guiltily tried to cover up and said coldly, "I'm afraid you'll blow up the kitchen, so I'm here to keep an eye on you." Xiaodong grinned. "Okay, you're welcome to keep an eye on me." She lowered her head and continued working. After she finished making the chestnut cream filling, she put it into the floral tape. She cut a hole in the floral tape and squeezed the chestnut cream filling onto the cake. She carefully handled every step and didn't notice that Xiao Yi, who was originally standing at the door to keep an eye on her, had disappeared. Then, a glass of fresh lemon juice suddenly appeared near her right hand. She looked down at Xiao Yi by her feet. Xiao Yi pouted and raised her chin coolly. "If you blow up the kitchen, you can use this glass of lemon juice to put out the fire." Xiaodong smiled, but she didn't expose him. "If the kitchen didn't explode, I would have drunk this glass of lemon juice in order not to waste it." He snorted. "That's your business. You don't have to report to me. I'm going out to play." "Wait a moment." Xiaodong quickly cut a small piece of cake and put it on a plate. She took a fork and squatted in front of him. "Supervisor, the cake is ready. Try it first." The aroma of the freshly baked cake wafted in the air. He, who liked sweets, was immediately attracted by the cake on the plate. However, he was unwilling to show his liking in front of her. He turned his face away and said, "I'm still very full. I don't want to eat." "It's okay. I'll leave it for now and eat it when you're hungry." Xiaodong put the plate back on the table with a smile. "Next, I'm going to make a nice and delicious snack. Purple potato balls. Supervisor, do you want to continue to supervise here?" "It's none of your business," Xiao Yi said coldly. He didn't even look at her. He straightened his chest and walked out of the kitchen. Xiaodong watched his short figure disappear at the door and smiled bitterly. However, when her gaze landed on the glass of lemon juice, her heart warmed a little. Compared to making chocolate chestnut cake, making purple potato balls was much easier. Purple potato balls were suitable for eating immediately. If they were left for too long, they wouldn't taste good. She only fried a small plate for Xiao Yi's afternoon snack. Then, she wrapped the rest of the purple potato dough in plastic wrap and put it in the fridge. She planned to tell the chef to make it for Xiao Yi in the future before she left. Looking at the time, it was only 4 in the afternoon. It was still early. She made a simple salty biscuit, black sesame seaweed biscuit. Finally, she made mango glutinous rice paste and put it in the fridge. When Bailey Han came back from work, it would be ready to eat. It was to repay him for taking care of her when she was sick. After doing all this, Xiaodong washed her hands. She carried the plate of chocolate chestnut cake and freshly squeezed apple juice to the living room. She didn't see Xiao Yi. After thinking about it, she asked the maid to send it upstairs on her behalf. Xiao Yi hated her. If she sent it upstairs, he might refuse. "Miss Xia, you're leaving already? Aren't you going to say goodbye to the young master?" When Xiaodong packed up and was about to leave, the butler appeared at the right time. "No need. I'm just here to see him today. I'm relieved to see that he's getting better. Uncle Li, please take good care of him." After saying the last sentence, Xiaodong felt that she had misspoken. Butler Li would naturally take good care of Xiao Yi. She had no right to ask, so she smiled apologetically. "Uncle Li, I didn't mean anything else." I understand, Miss Xia. Uncle Li was a kind person. He smiled kindly and said, I know Miss Xia is sincerely looking out for the young master. The sun is still very hot outside. You should rest for a while before leaving. No, I have to go home to take care of the children. Uncle Li, thank you for your hospitality. Xia Dong was grateful that he deliberately gave her the opportunity to be alone with Xiao Yi. The maid sent the cake and drinks to Xiao Yi's room. He asked expressionlessly, Why isn't she coming up? The maid was stunned for a moment before she reacted. Young master, Miss Xia is leaving. Xiao Yi jumped down from the chair and ran to the stairs. He happened to see Xia Dong saying goodbye to the butler and then walking towards the garage under the scorching sun. There was a hint of struggle in his eyes. In the end, he gritted his teeth and ran back to his room without looking back. The cake was soft, fragrant, and sweet. It tasted very good. After eating one piece, he couldn't help but want to eat a second piece. However, the maid refused to cut the cake for him. Young master, Miss Xia instructed before she left that you can't eat too much dessert. Otherwise, you won't be able to eat dinner tonight. Xiao Yi's face darkened and he didn't say anything. Although you can't eat cake anymore, Miss Xia still prepared purple potato balls for you. The maid brought over a small plate of purple potato balls. It was really a very small stack. Xiao Yi counted and there were only 5 in total. After Xiao Yi ate one, his eyes immediately became heart-shaped. It was too delicious. Unfortunately, it was very little. The maid seemed to see his regret. She smiled and said, when Miss Xia left, she had already refrigerated the purple potato balls. If you like them, the chef can make more for you tomorrow. Xiao Yi suddenly pushed the empty plate away and said coldly, Don't mention her in front of me in the future. What was she doing now? Was she trying to make it up to him? Did she think that he would forgive her if she treated him a little better? Bailey Han deliberately got off work early and went home early. However, he still missed Xia Dong, so he was a little upset. The butler observed his expression and took out the mango glutinous rice paste from the fridge. He put it on a snow-white plate and placed it in front of him. Young master, Miss Xia specially asked me to leave this for you. Bailey Han's lips immediately curled up. He didn't really like sweets, but because she made it, it was full of temptation in his eyes. He picked up a glutinous rice paste and took a small bite. The glutinous rice paste was fragrant and soft, and the sweetness was very light. It wasn't greasy at all, and it was cold to the touch. It spread from his mouth to his stomach. He took a second bite and there was the sweetness of mango. He frowned. There's mango? The butler was shocked. I'm sorry, young master. I didn't know it was mango-flavored. Bailey Han said lightly, It's okay. He took another bite. The butler was so anxious that he stomped his feet. Young master, you're allergic to mangoes. Don't eat it. Bailey Han acted as if he didn't hear him. He finished the glutinous rice paste in his hand and reached out for the rest on the plate. The butler was so excited that he wanted to snatch the plate, but under his sharp gaze, he could only give up on the idea. The butler watched him eat the glutinous rice paste without batting an eyelid and tears streamed down his face. It's over. It's over. Young master will definitely be allergic. Bailey Han quickly finished the remaining 3 glutinous rice paste on the plate. As the butler expected, in less than 10 minutes, he had a red rash all over his body, including his face. His lips were swollen, and his handsome image was completely ruined. The next day, Xia Dong called the villa. It was the butler who picked up. Uncle Li, has Xiao Yi recovered from his cold? The butler sighed. Young master's illness has recovered, but young master is sick again. Xia Dong was shocked. What's wrong with Bailey Han? The butler hesitated for a moment and said, Young master is allergic to mangoes. Xia Dong immediately thought of the mango glutinous rice paste she made and felt bad. She had done it out of kindness, but she didn't expect that it would harm him. Is it serious? He has a red rash all over his body and it's very itchy. Although he took anti-allergy medicine, the rash still hasn't subsided. Xia Dong felt even more guilty. Is he at home today? Yes, young master can't go to the company in his current state. If young master, who had a red rash and a sausage mouth, went to the company, it would definitely cause a huge uproar. His image as a Prince Charming would be completely ruined. Xiaodong was so ashamed that she couldn't show her face. Uncle Li, is there anything else he's allergic to or doesn't like? Please let me know. Young master is allergic to mangoes and peaches. He doesn't like sweets. He's fine with other things, but he has high standards for taste. Young Master Bailey's mouth was picky, and this was a well-known fact in the Bailey family. Okay, I got it. Thank you. Xiaodong was responsible for the trouble she caused. She specially consulted the doctor and spent more than 2 hours making a pot of rock sugar white fungus soup. She specially sent it to Bailey Han's house. When she saw Bailey Han, she almost didn't recognize him. He was wearing a long shirt and trousers to cover the red rash on his body, but the rash on his face was completely exposed. The red and swollen lips had subsided a lot, but he still looked funny. A little like Liang Chaowei's sausage mouth in East Meets West. Attention, Hangzhou 866. Chapter 172. Xiaodong came with a heart of remorse, but when she saw him like this, her shoulders couldn't help but tremble suspiciously. Bailey Han was calm and said mildly, "If you think it's funny, then don't hold it in." "Pfft, I'm sorry." Xiaodong hurriedly covered her mouth and tried her best to hold back her laughter. It took a lot of effort for her to disperse the laughter. I'm sorry. I didn't know you were allergic to mangoes." She embarrassedly placed the food box on the table. "I made rock sugar white fungus soup to apologize to you. I know you don't like sweets, so I put very little sugar in it." He watched as she scooped the white fungus soup from the food box into a small bowl and said mildly, "It has nothing to do with you. It's me. After I found out that the filling was mangoes, I ate it all." Xiaodong felt like she had been fooled by him. Her tone was a little harsh. "Why did you finish it? You know you're allergic to it." He said mildly, "You made this especially for me. I didn't want to waste it." Xiaodong froze. The small bowl in her hand felt heavy. She had mixed feelings and couldn't help but say, "You're crazy. Are you going to swallow the arsenic that I gave you?" "If you want me to swallow it, I will." He smiled. Although his face was covered in rashes, Xiaodong felt that he was as handsome as before. Her nose twitched as if she had choked on chili. Xiaodong placed the small bowl in front of him and grabbed her bag to leave. "I have something to do. I'll leave first." Just as she took 2 steps, her wrist was grabbed. His voice was mellow and magnetic. "Xiaodong, I'm very happy that you came to see me. Bailey Han, don't misunderstand. I only came to see you because I feel guilty." Xiaodong hurriedly distanced herself from him, afraid that he would have any ideas. "Even so, I'm still very happy." Bailey Han approached her and hugged her from behind. She was shocked and struggled violently. He whispered, "Don't move. Let me hug you for a while." Only a fool wouldn't move. Xiaodong was anxious and angry. She struggled and said in a low voice, "Bailey Han, don't mess around. If someone sees us, let me go." He chuckled. "You mean, as long as no one sees me, I can fool around, right?" As he spoke, his hands had already moved to her abdomen. His palms gently covered it. Although he couldn't feel the baby's movements, his heart softened. He really wanted to know what their baby would look like when it was born. Would it look like her or him? His hand landed on her abdomen, so she didn't dare to move. She was afraid that he would use too much force and hurt the baby. She gritted her teeth and said, "Bailey Han, when did you become so shameless?" "Let me go," he said in a low voice. "If I'm not shameless, how can I trap you?" Her body froze. After a moment of silence she said coldly, "Bailey Han, I thought I made myself clear enough. I'm Mika Kito's fiancé. If you want to flirt, please find someone else." Anger surged from his heart. His voice became low and cold. "Do you want to get involved with Mika Kito so badly?" She laughed coldly. "I'm his fiancé. There's no need to pull strings. I know that your engagement is fake. Don't use this reason to brush me off in the future, okay? Xia xia?" He suddenly moved closer to her ear and used an extremely ambiguous posture and tone to slowly whisper into her ear. "Xia xia." He had wanted to call her that for a long time. Xiaodong was silent for a long time. Then she said seriously, "Bailey Han, let's talk." In the study they sat facing each other. Xia Dong lowered her eyes and said slowly, "Because of my parents, I don't believe that love can last forever, and I don't believe that marriage can last a lifetime. So, I'm not a fan of marriage." Her father had abandoned her and her mother to marry Su Murong and give birth to Su Xingchen. Her mother had set fire to herself and died when she was in the 6th grade of primary school. This was the information that Bailey Han understood. He frowned slightly. "Your father's actions don't represent all men. Why don't you give me a chance and give yourself a chance?" She looked up at him and laughed mockingly. "What do you like about me? In my opinion, your love for me is only temporary. After that, you'll definitely abandon me like Su Yunqian." Anger rose in Bailey Han's heart. "How do you know that my feelings for you are only temporary? How can you be sure that it's my fault for breaking up with Su Yunqian? That I'm fickle in love with the new and hate the old? All right then, I'll give you a chance to refute." Bailey Han's pupils suddenly shrank. He didn't want to publicize Su Yunqian's wrongdoings, but at the same time, he didn't want to be misunderstood by her. After deliberating over his words, he said, "I used to love Yunqian deeply, but she's become more and more unrecognizable to me. Some of her actions hurt the people I care about and destroyed my trust in her." Xia Dong sneered. "Then I'll congratulate you. Soon, you'll realize that the real me is not the same person as what you think and what you see on the surface. I'm also good at pretending, and I'll hurt the people you care about. When that time comes, you'll abandon me without hesitation." Bailey Han blurted out, "That's different." Her gaze was sharp. "How is it different?" He was speechless for a moment and didn't know how to answer. She laughed mockingly. "See, you're not sure either, Bailey Han. You can't give me a long-term love and marriage. Putting aside your own factors, your family won't accept me first." Bailey's family hated her to the core. How could they agree to him marrying her? This was a fact that should have been made clear to him earlier, so that he would give up on the idea. His face was gloomy, as if he was thinking, but also as if he was angry. She got up to leave, but he didn't ask her to stay. When she reached the door of the study, he suddenly said, "Xia Dong, the only person I want to grow old with now is you." Her back was facing him, and her heart trembled. An inexplicable emotion surrounded her, but she didn't turn around. She walked out of the study and out of the villa. The house was empty. She didn't meet anyone, and she didn't see Xiao either. She didn't know why, but her heart felt a little empty. Xia Dong reflected on herself. During this period of time, she had been too close to Bailey Han, but she didn't expect trouble to come knocking on her door so quickly. The next day, old madam knocked on her door with a gloomy face. Xiao Bao could tell that something was wrong. Worried that her mother would be taken advantage of, the first thing she did after returning to her room was to call Bailey Han and inform him. Then, she hid at the living room door to eavesdrop. "You went to Ah Han's villa yesterday and the day before." Old madam went straight to the point. "You seem to have turned a deaf ear to my words and never took them to heart." Xia Dong said mildly, "I'm sorry. It's my fault this time. It won't happen again." Old madam's expression was ugly. "Xia Dong, you know that I don't want an apology. I want action. Back then, you and I signed an agreement that if we had a boy, he would be raised by the Bailey family, and if we had a girl, you would take her away. You were the one who played tricks and escaped to Japan. Ah Han also got into a car accident because of you and almost lost his life. Forget it. I don't want to be calculative with you over these past events. Back then, when I brought Xiao Yi back to the Bailey family, you promised me that you wouldn't get close to Xiao Yi and that you wouldn't come back to disturb Ah Han's life. You kept going back on your word, and I can't trust you anymore." Xia Dong's heart tightened. What happened to Bailey Han's car accident? Old madam snorted coldly. "Wasn't it because you didn't want to give the child to the Bailey family and escape to Japan? Ah Han got into a car accident on the way to the airport to chase after you." Xia Dong's heart sank. She really didn't expect that Bailey Han's car accident was because of her. "I'm sorry, I really didn't know." Xia Dong murmured painfully. "I didn't leave because I didn't want to give the child to the Bailey family. I left because I don't want to know the reason." Old madam interrupted her. "I won't believe anything you say anymore. Xia Dong, I'll give you 1 month. I want you to get married to Mika Kito within this month and break Ah Han's heart. If you don't get married, I'll take away Xiao Yi's inheritance rights and send him to England." He won't be allowed to step into the Bailey family's door for the rest of his life. I won't let you and your son see each other for the rest of your life. You can't treat Xiaoyi like this. He's also a descendant of the Bailey family. Our Bailey family needs obedient and loyal descendants. We don't need a descendant with a lowly mother like you. Xia Dong felt like her heart was being cut by a knife. She thought old madam loved Xiaoyi very much, but she didn't expect her to be so selfish. If you marry Mika Kito and Gigai and cut off all contact with Ahan and Xiaoyi will still be my precious great-grandson and will have the absolute inheritance rights of the family. Xia Dong, as his mother, all you can give him is scandal and humiliation. Don't you think about his future? Old madam seemed to be speaking earnestly, but in fact, every word she said was trampling on Xia Dong's self-esteem. She was already full of guilt toward Xiaoyi, so she could only give him what she thought was best from a mother's point of view. Xia Dong closed her eyes and said, "Okay, I agree to your conditions. However, you have to promise me that no matter who Bailey Han marries in the future or how many children he has, you can't mistreat Xiaoyi because you favor them." Old madam said coldly, "Of course. If you don't exist, Xiaoyi will always be my most beloved great-grandson." As their negotiation came to an end, the doorbell suddenly rang. Xia Dong didn't expect Bailey Han to suddenly appear. His allergic symptoms had subsided and he had regained his usual handsome face. However, at this moment, his expression was serious and anxious. He put his hands on her shoulders and asked nervously, "Are you okay?" Old madam heard the sound and walked over from the living room. She snorted coldly and said, "What can happen to her? Why did you suddenly come here?" She looked at Xia Dong suspiciously. "Did you inform him?" Beauty novel, Hongcha 866. Chapter 173. That's not it. It has nothing to do with Xia Dong. Bailey Han denied flatly. He turned his body and stood in front of Xia Dong. "Grandma, what did you talk about with Xia Dong?" The old madam's voice was stern. "It doesn't matter what I talked about with her. What's important is that you're not allowed to see her again. Look at how she has led you astray." Bailey Han glanced at the pale-faced Xia Dong and held her by the shoulders. He was domineering and irresistible. There was a determined look on his handsome face. "Grandma, I love Xia Dong. I want to marry her." Xia Dong's body froze. She was overwhelmed with shock. Her heart was in a mess and she didn't know what to do. The old madam stabbed her walking stick into the ground. She looked sharply at Xia Dong and said sternly, "Even if I die, I won't allow her to enter Bailey's house." Bailey Han's deep eyes were like a storm. He clenched his fists and the veins on the back of his hands were throbbing. He seemed to have suppressed his anger to the extreme. His thin lips moved and he said angrily, "Grandma, if you insist on not accepting Xia Dong, I will sever all ties with Bailey's family. She wants to marry me, not Bailey's family." Xia Dong turned her head abruptly and stared at him in disbelief. No, things shouldn't be like this. His feelings for her were only temporary. He wouldn't marry her, and he wouldn't fight against his family for her. The old madam was furious. Her fingers trembled as she pointed at his nose and scolded him. "You unfilial son! I raised you for nothing. How dare you say such disgraceful things for a woman? Good, very good. I'll beat you to death now so that you don't anger our family to death." The old madam picked up her walking stick and swung it at Bailey Han. Seeing that Bailey Han was standing there foolishly, Xia Dong instinctively threw herself at him and blocked the walking stick. A heavy blow landed on the back of her shoulder, causing her to hiss in pain as she sucked in a few breaths of cold air. Bailey Han hugged her anxiously. Xia, are you all right? Why are you so silly? Why did you block it for me?" Xia Dong smiled bitterly. Why? Even she didn't know why. By the time she reacted, she was already on top of him. The old madam's expression. She didn't expect that Xia Dong would block the blow. Xia, let me take a look at your injury." Bailey Han held her waist and wanted to check her injury, but she grabbed his hand. "Old madam, Mr. Bailey, as the party involved, I would like to say something." Xia Dong's expression was indifferent. "I've never thought of marrying into the Bailey's family, so the issue you're arguing about doesn't exist." The old madam pursed her lips. She was obviously satisfied with her words. Xia Dong felt terrible. but she squeezed out a smile. Mr. Bailey, I think you might have misunderstood something. I won't marry you. You? Bailey Han glared at her angrily. Before he could finish speaking, his head started to hurt. It was as if a nerve in his head had been violently jerked. He held his forehead with one hand and his expression was terrible. Pain. His head hurt more and more. The jerking turned into a beating drum. He could even hear the thumping sound. His expression became more and more terrible. His brows furrowed in pain and cold sweat broke out on his forehead. He held his forehead with one hand and supported himself against the wall with the other to support himself. Xia Dong saw that he was in pain and wanted to help him up, but she remembered the old madam's words and restrained herself. The old madam's expression changed. She stomped her walking stick and said anxiously, "Han, what's wrong? My head hurts. Quick, call an ambulance." The old madam was so anxious that she forgot that she was in someone else's house and didn't know who she was ordering. Xia Dong didn't care so much. She trotted to the living room and picked up the phone. Bailey Han's pain in his head subsided quickly like a tide. Bailey Han took a deep breath and slowly exhaled. "No, I'm fine." The old madam was worried. "Are you really okay?" "I'm fine." Hearing that he was fine, the old madam didn't feel relieved at all. She still felt heavy. She knew that what she was worried about might happen. Han, if that's the case, let's not disturb them here. Take care." Xia Dong deliberately avoided Bailey Han's gaze and looked down at her feet. He was so angry that he gritted his teeth, but because the old madam was present, he could only hold it in. The sound of footsteps gradually faded away. Xia Dong leaned against the door and couldn't calm down for a long time. The back of her shoulder was still hurting, but she wasn't in the mood to care about it. She was like a walking corpse. She walked to the sofa and sat down. All the strength in her body had been sucked away. She felt very sorry for Bailey Han. When she saw his pained expression when he had a headache, her heart also ached. Xiao Bao was shocked by part of the truth that he had eavesdropped on. He was petrified on the spot and only came to his senses after Bailey Han and the old madam left. He wanted to go forward to check on his mommy's injuries, but he was afraid that she would be angry if she found out that he had eavesdropped. He could only move his short legs back to his room. He secretly dialed Yi Siki's number. "Hey, baby, why did you suddenly think of calling Auntie Siki?" "Auntie Siki, can I ask you something?" "Sure, what do you want to know?" "Auntie Siki, why did my mommy leave China for Japan 5 years ago?" Yi Siki frowned. "Baby, why are you asking this question?" Xiao Bao lowered his voice and sounded very depressed. "I heard Bailey Yi's great-grandmother say that mommy eloped with Uncle Beitang." Yi Siki was furious and blurted out, "Don't listen to her nonsense. Your mommy encountered some bad things back then and almost lost her life. That's why she hid in Japan to seek refuge." "Auntie Siki, then do you know why my mommy got together with Bailey Han and had us?" Yi Siki gritted her teeth. "Baby, Auntie Siki doesn't know about this either. You're still young, so don't ask about these things anymore. After all, it was hard to talk about Xia's adultery. How could she tell her child?" Xiao Bao said in a low voice, "Oh, I won't ask again." He at least understood one thing. Mommy didn't run to Japan on purpose like old madam said. She had her reasons for abandoning Xiao Yi. Xiao Bao sighed and frowned. Was Xiao Yi his younger brother? Or was he his older brother? Little Wingzi hated his mommy for abandoning him. She had to tell him the truth as soon as possible. "Yes, it's decided." Xiao Bao didn't know Bailey Yi's cell phone number, so he called the villa's landline. The housekeeper picked up. "Hello, I'm looking for Bailey Yi." The housekeeper picked up the phone and heard a young child's voice. Puzzled, he asked, "Who is this?" "Tell Bailey Yi that I'm Xia Xiaobao." "So it's young Master Xia. Please wait a moment. I'll connect the call to Little Master right away." Because Bailey Han had once hosted Xia Dong and her children at the villa, the housekeeper, who had an excellent memory, still remembered Xiao Bao. Xiao Yi didn't expect Xiao Bao to call him. He looked indifferent. "Xia Xiaobao, why are you looking for me?" "Bailey Yi, I want to tell you something. To ensure that this matter won't be eavesdropped on by a second person, I'll call your cell phone to tell you. Tell me your cell phone number now." Although Xiao Yi was a little impatient, His curiosity prompted him to tell Xiaobao his cell phone number. Soon, Xiaobao hung up the phone and called him. Xiaobao didn't beat around the bush and said directly, "Actually, you've misunderstood Mom. She didn't abandon you on purpose back then. She had her reasons." When Xiao Yi heard him mention Xia Dong, his expression turned ugly. He pursed his lips and said coldly, "What other reasons could there be? She's just selling her son for glory." These days, he had been thinking hard about why she would abandon him. In the end, he could only come up with this answer. Xiao Bao's anger was stuck in his chest. He said angrily, "Bailey Yi, how can you say that about Mommy? She's not that kind of person. Can you listen to what I have to say before you give your opinion?" Xiao Yi pursed his lips and said slowly, "Then tell me." "I'm listening." Xiao Bao scratched his head. "I don't know what happened between Mommy and Bailey Han 5 years ago. Anyway, Mommy was pregnant and had us. After that, Mommy was in danger. In order to protect us and her life, she had to leave China. However, your great-grandmother mistakenly thought that Mommy was trying to escape, so when she gave birth, she forcefully carried you back to Bailey's house." Xiao Yi was silent for a long time. "Why should I believe you? Also, why didn't my great-grandmother carry Xiao Guai or you back, but me?" "Your great-grandmother came to cause trouble for Mommy just now. I recorded part of their conversation. If you don't believe me, I'll play it for you immediately. As for why your great-grandmother carried you away and not me, I'm not sure. Maybe Mommy hid the 2 children back then." Xiao Bao didn't wait for him to answer. He directly turned on the recording pen and played the recording. This recording started from when the old madam forced Xia Dong to get married within a month. It only ended when Bailey Han appeared and left with the old madam. After the recording ended, there was no sound from the other side of the phone for a long time. Xiao Bao said worriedly, "Bailey Yi, are you okay? Bailey Yi?" Xiao Yi clenched his fists and suppressed his sobs. He heard it clearly. It was indeed his great-grandmother who forced that woman to come and see him. She didn't allow her to acknowledge him. Then, it was his great-grandmother who forcefully carried him back from that woman back then, right? Why did his great-grandmother do that? Why did she use him to force her? Bailey Yi? Xiao Bao's imagination bubbled up. He was afraid that he wouldn't be able to take the blow and would do something stupid. He anxiously called out his name. "Bailey Yi, don't do anything stupid." Awesome novel, Hongcha 866. Chapter 174. Xiao Yi bit his lip, wiped the tears from the corners of his eyes and said fiercely, "What kind of stupid thing could I do? Let me tell you, Xiao Bao, even if we're brothers, I'll still be the older brother." Xiao Bao was stunned, then suddenly grinned and said proudly, "That's not necessarily true. You'll have to ask Mommy to find out." Xiao Yi snorted, looking insufferably arrogant. "I don't need to ask to know. It must be because I was born first. Great-grandmother didn't know that Mommy was pregnant with triplets, so she only took me away." Xiao Bao had to admit that his analysis made sense. Mommy fled to Japan while she was pregnant, so the Bailey family definitely didn't know that she was pregnant with triplets, so they only took the firstborn child away. Something didn't seem right. What was it? Xiao Bao scratched his head and thought for a while, then suddenly shouted, "You just called Mommy." Xiao Yi choked, then stiffened his neck and retorted, "I didn't." "You clearly did. I heard it just now." "I didn't." "You did." The two of them didn't give in to each other and argued for a long time. In the end, Xiao Bao said angrily, "Forget it, I'm not going to argue with you. Let me tell you, we're biological brothers, and Xiao Guai is sick and Mommy is close to Bailey Han. You're not allowed to tell anyone about it. You made an oath." Right now, the old madam still didn't know that he and Xiao Guai were also Bailey Han's children. If this secret was exposed, it was very likely that they would be forcefully taken away again. He didn't want to become a child without a mother. From that recording, Xiao Yi already knew the seriousness of the matter, so naturally, he wouldn't tell anyone. What's more, when he made the vow, he said that if he broke the vow, his mommy would never be reincarnated. Although he still didn't admit that woman was his mommy, in fact, he already secretly admitted it in his heart, he didn't want her to never be reincarnated. "Hey!" Xiao Bao was silent for a moment before suddenly shouting, "Xiao Yi, I think Bailey Han likes Mommy a lot. Why don't we matchmake them? Although actually, I like Uncle Shen more. Xiaoyi gritted her teeth. How can you do this? My daddy is also your daddy. You should support our daddy. Xiao Bao raised her chin coolly. Humph, I haven't acknowledged him as my daddy yet. Aren't you the same? You haven't acknowledged Mommy yet, right? Xiao Yi snorted. That's different. Xiao Bao retorted sharply. How is it different? You think that Mommy abandoned you, but from my perspective, Bailey Han also abandoned me and Xiao Guai. Xiao Yi choked on his words and said angrily, That's because Daddy doesn't know of your existence. I don't care. Abandonment is abandonment. Xiao Bao's eyes darted around, and a strange smile appeared on her lips. How about this? I'll acknowledge Bailey Han, and you'll acknowledge Mommy. I don't want to. Although he had already started to accept it, he still felt a little awkward emotionally. What an awkward guy. Xiao Bao rolled her eyes and said indifferently, All right then, let's continue to separate. Your great-grandmother forced my mommy to marry Uncle Shen within a month. Anyway, Uncle Shen loves us a lot. I'm more than happy that he's our daddy. But it's different for you. If your great-grandmother forced your daddy to marry Su Yunqian, you can just wait to suffer. Xiao Yi gritted her teeth. She knew that he was trying to goad her, but it was very effective because what he said made a lot of sense. After hesitating for a moment, she said, All right, I agree with your suggestion. However, I won't be convinced by you. I want Gigai to have a complete family. All right. Xiao Bao smiled. She didn't care what excuse he came up with. As long as he agreed, it was fine. Xiao Yi frowned, her little face full of seriousness. It's good that we acknowledge each other in our hearts. Don't show it. Otherwise, if great-grandmother finds out, she'll make things difficult for her again. Make things difficult for who? Xiao Bao teased her deliberately. Xiao Yi was furious. You know who I'm talking about. Xiao Bao laughed. If you don't tell me who you're talking about, how would I know who you're talking about? Xiao Yi's mouth twitched. I don't want to play tongue twisters with you anymore. Anyway, we'll keep the status quo on the surface in the future. Xiao Bao shrugged. Of course I know. I'm not stupid. Humph. This little brother of hers was really despicable. So annoying. Would it kill him to express a little respect for his older brother? Would it kill him? Xiao Yi cursed in her heart. Hey Bailey Yi, are you still alive? I haven't been angered to death by you yet. The two brats came to an agreement. They felt that it would be very difficult to matchmake Xiaodong and Bailey Han with just the two of them. They had to canvass for votes and win over all the supporters they could. But other than the two of them, who else could they win over? Xiao Yi's eyes lit up and her pink lips curled up. Xiao Bao, my Auntie Jing is coming back. Great-grandma listens to Auntie Jing. If Auntie Jing is on our side and helps us persuade great-grandma, it will be much easier. Xiao Bao rubbed his chin. When is your Auntie Jing coming back? Next week. But it will be very difficult to persuade your Auntie Jing to stand on our side. How are you going to tell her about our background? Xiao Yi thought for a moment and said, Of course we can't tell her directly. Auntie Jing is best friends with Daddy. If Daddy asks her, she will definitely agree. All right, this will be a supporting plan. The main person to carry out the plan will still be you. Xiao Bao raised his eyebrows and giggled. If you suddenly fall ill and don't recognize anyone, and don't let anyone come close except for my mommy, the Bailey family will definitely let my mommy take care of you. Xiao Yi's mouth twitched. Your idea is similar to how I pretended to be autistic. But don't you think it will be very fake if we do it a second time? Are you stupid? We can make it very real. Who said that we can't use the same method a second time? That's not the point. The point is whether great-grandma will ask her to take care of me for my sake. Xiao Yi was a little depressed. He had to admit that old madam using him to threaten Xiaodong was a huge blow to him. He even started to doubt if old madam was really good to him. A child's heart was actually very fragile. Xiao Bao thought for a moment and nodded solemnly. I think so. Your great-grandma still loves you a lot. Also, we have to carry out the plan as soon as possible. Otherwise, when Uncle Shen comes back. Boo-hoo, he suddenly felt very guilty. He had let Uncle Shen down. What should he do? Asterisk Xiaodong was still in a daze on the sofa. She held her forehead and had a headache. She was going to marry Mika Kito within a month. How was she going to tell him that she was going to use him as a shield? Calculating the time, he should be back from Japan in at most half a month. Suddenly, the doorbell rang. She saw who it was through the peephole and quickly opened the door. "Aunt, why are you here?" Xia Yun rushed in with a big bag. She said that she was here to help her settle her marriage. She placed the things in the living room and pushed the stunned Xia Dong into the room. "Quick, change your clothes. Before coming, I signed you up for a TV dating show. It's going to be recorded tonight." "Ah, really?" Xia Dong was scared out of her wits. She quickly found an excuse. "Aunt, I have to take care of Xiao Guai and Xiao Bao. I don't have time to participate in a dating show." Xia Yun smiled. "What are you afraid of? I'm here. I'll stay here to take care of Xiao Bao and Xiao Guai. You go to the TV station to record the show. Of course, I'll personally escort you to the TV station." "Aunt." Okay, hurry up and change your clothes." Xia Dong was pushed into the room by Xia Yun. She quickly called Yi Siki for help. Unexpectedly, when Yi Siki heard it, he laughed heartily. He said that he didn't expect Aunt Xia to be so powerful and so ruthless. Xia Dong grabbed her hair angrily. "Yezi, are you my friend or not? I'm so anxious, but you're still gloating over my misfortune. Isn't it just a dating show? Go ahead. At most, you'll act a little better. The moment you start, you'll say that you have 3 children. Won't those men be scared away by you? It's fine if I embarrass myself, but the problem is that I don't want to drag the children into this." Xia Dong sighed. "Think about it. This show is for the whole city. If people find out that I'm Xiao Bao and Xiao Guai's mother, they'll laugh at them." "That's true. Then let's do it this way. Try to reduce your presence as much as possible so that people won't notice you. If there are unlucky guys who bump into you, politely decline and say that the two of you aren't compatible." Xia Dong suddenly had an idea. "Yezi, I suddenly thought of something. Okay, I won't talk to you anymore. I'm going to talk to my aunt." Xia Yun was tidying up the fridge and putting in the vegetables and fruits that she had bought. Xia Dong looked at her busy figure and felt a little guilty. Coincidentally, her aunt turned around and urged her, "Why haven't you changed? Hurry up. I'll accompany you to the beauty salon later." Xia Dong made up her mind. She gritted her teeth and said, "Aunt, I can't go on the dating show." Xia Yun was stunned. "Why?" "Aunt, although Mika Kito and I have a fake engagement, the media basically knows about it. Think about it. If I go on the dating show with such fanfare, what will the media think?" Xia Yun slapped her thigh. "How could I forget about this? Forget it. I'll call the TV station now and tell them that you won't be going." She quickly called the TV station and said a lot of good things. Xia, you don't have to go on the dating show, but you must go on the blind date." Xia Yun had another trick up her sleeve. She took out a stack of photos and placed them in front of Xia Dong. Come. Take a look. Auntie Li specially picked these for you." The Auntie Li that Xia Yun mentioned opened a matchmaking agency and had a lot of information on unmarried men and women. Beauty novels, Hongcha 866. Chapter 175. Xia, look at this one. 35 years old. Farmer entrepreneur. Although he's not very educated, he's honest and knows how to make money. Then look at this one. 32 years old. University language teacher. He's cultured and talented. And this one. 31 years old, white-collar elite, handsome and confident. He's a department manager in a foreign trade company. Xia Yun took the photos and introduced them one by one as if he was very familiar with them. Xia Dong didn't want to dampen her enthusiasm. Under her urging, from the first photo to the last, there were more than 30 candidates. Xia, there are 32 people here. You can choose a few suitable ones. I'll ask your Auntie Li to arrange a time for the meeting. Xia Dong rubbed her eyebrows. Aunt, do I really have to choose? Xia Yun raised her eyebrows. Of course. Why else would I spend so much effort? Okay then. Xiaodong took the photos and looked at them carefully. During the process of choosing, she suddenly had an idea. Since she didn't want to use Brother Shen as a shield, she might as well find someone to fake a marriage. Anyway, old madam only wanted her to get married. It shouldn't be a big deal to change the marriage partner. Suddenly, she had a chance. Xiaodong selected carefully. In the end, she eliminated a few men who were particularly good, leaving behind 5 men who looked especially honest and easy to communicate with. Aunt, I've chosen. It's them. Xia Yun took the photos and looked at them carefully. These 5 men were not the best overall, but they were not bad. She was quite satisfied and said, Xia, I'll ask your Auntie Li to arrange it quickly. You should buy a few more clothes and dress yourself up in the next 2 days. Xiaodong smiled and said, Okay. Xia Yun was impatient and didn't wait until she got home. She directly contacted Xiaodong's old friend and asked her to help arrange a meeting between the 5 men and Xiaodong. Coincidentally, one of the 5 ladies happened to be on leave today and had time. He asked Auntie Li to help him arrange a blind date. Auntie Li immediately set a time and place for him and Xiaodong to meet. At 4 o'clock in the afternoon at Blue's Mood Cafe. No way, Auntie. We're meeting in the afternoon? She was not mentally prepared at all. The earlier we meet, the earlier we make a decision. The earlier I marry you off, the earlier I can be at ease. All right, I got it. I'll leave Xiao Bao and Xiao Guai in your care then. After lunch, Xiaodong was chased into her room by Xia Yun. Xia Yun told her to put on makeup and change her clothes. Xiaodong was in such a hurry. She tried out one outfit after another, matching shoes and bags. Her movements were so loud that even Xiao Bao and Xiao Guai knew about it. The 2 little guys squeezed into her room to watch the fun. Xiao Guai said in a childish voice, Mommy, Great Aunt said that you're going on a blind date. What about Uncle Shin? Oh, and Uncle Bailey, he also wants to marry you. Suddenly hearing Bailey Han's name, Xiaodong's heart skipped a beat. She actually felt flustered. She knocked on her daughter's forehead to cover it up. What nonsense are you talking about? Go back to your room and take a nap. Otherwise, Mommy will be angry. Xiao Guai stuck out her tongue. All right, Mommy. Don't be angry. I'll go and rest now. After coaxing one little guy away, there was still another. Xiao Bao crossed his arms and puffed up his cheeks. He looked at her sternly. Mom, are you really going to marry someone else? Aren't you going to consider marrying Bailey Han? Don't mention Bailey Han anymore. Xiaodong had a headache. She put on a pitiful face. Baby, Mommy is already very frustrated. Don't mention this again, okay? Xiao Bao shrugged helplessly. It seemed that he still needed to do something. When Xiaodong went out, Suzaku naturally followed. The 2 entered the cafe one after the other. Xiaodong was led to the agreed seat by the waiter. Suzaku sat down at the door. The blind date had already arrived. He was wearing a white shirt, black trousers, and a pair of black-rimmed glasses. He couldn't be considered handsome, but his facial features were regular and he looked simple and honest. The man stood up and politely said, Miss Xia? I'm Zhou Zijian. Hello, Mr. Zhou. Xiaodong politely reached out to shake his hand. Zhou Zijian smiled gently and handed over a menu. Xiaodong glanced at it briefly and ordered a cup of fresh orange juice. Ever since she became pregnant, she hadn't drunk coffee or tea. A cup of fresh orange juice and a cup of cappuccino. Zhou Zijian returned the menu to the waiter. Miss Xia, what do you do for a living? Before the drinks were served, Zhou Zijian took the initiative to speak. Xiaodong smiled. I used to be a fashion magazine editor. Now, I'm idle at home. The smile on Zhou Zijian's face disappeared as he calmly said, I'm more in favor of equality between men and women. I also support my wife to have her own career. I feel that women should first be financially independent. Only then will they be more confident in their relationships. The waiter brought the orange juice and drinks. Xiaodong took a sip of the orange juice and smiled faintly. You're right. I also feel that women should have their own careers. Zhou Zijian nodded. May I ask if Miss Xia has any plans for her future? Xiaodong's slender fingers tapped on the table. Mr. Zhou, actually, I'm not here for a blind date. I'm here to discuss a business deal. Zhou Zijian frowned. What do you mean? Xiaodong smiled. Let's get married. Zhou Zijian was stunned. Before he could answer, a black figure rushed over like a gust of wind. A cold voice exploded beside them. I don't agree. Xiaodong was stunned. She raised her head and looked to the side of the coffee table. Bailey Han's handsome and tall figure stood in front of her. His exquisite and perfect features were filled with anger. His dark eyes were as sharp as a hawk's. Why are you here? If I didn't come, how would I know that you're on a blind date and that you're planning to marry this man? Bailey Han was furious. When he received Xiao Bao's call and found out that Xiaodong was on a blind date, he immediately abandoned the meeting and drove over. The first thing he heard was that she wanted to marry that man. The people around them looked over curiously. Zhou Zijian couldn't help but ask, Miss Xia, who is this gentleman? Xiaodong's head hurt. He's just an ordinary friend of mine. Ordinary friend. Bailey Han snorted coldly. He grabbed Xiaodong's wrist and pulled her up from her seat. He pulled her into his arms domineeringly and stared at Zhou Zijian with his malicious eyes. I'm not an ordinary friend. I'm her boyfriend and will soon become her husband. Don't talk nonsense. There's nothing between us. Xiaodong struggled hard, but his arms and chest were like an iron wall that trapped her tightly. Bailey Han was so angry that he laughed. A complicated look flashed across his eyes and his voice suddenly became gentle. Baby, stop fooling around. Although my family doesn't agree to our marriage, I've already decided on you and will love you for the rest of my life. Believe me, I'll definitely make them accept you. His hand caressed her abdomen, and he said gently, Look, we even have a baby. How can we be considered ordinary friends? His voice was clearly very gentle, but Xiaodong felt a chill in her bones and couldn't help but shiver. The people around them looked at their table as if they were watching a good show. Zhou Zijian flew into a rage out of humiliation. He stood up and said coldly, Miss Xia, I didn't expect you to be this kind of woman. You've disappointed me. Bailey Han hugged Xiaodong and stared at Zhou Zijian fiercely. His entire body exuded an oppressive aura. My woman is not for you to judge. His eyes were like those of a ferocious beast, filled with a sense of tool. Zhou Zijian actually felt a little scared, but he couldn't afford to lose. He raised his chin and said proudly, I'll comment. So what? A woman like her whose two-timing would be drowned in a pig's cage in ancient times. Bang! Just as he finished speaking, Bailey Han's fierce fist had already landed on his face. Bailey Han wanted to punch again, but Xiaodong hugged his arm tightly and said anxiously, What are you doing? Don't hit him. Zhou Zijian covered the bleeding corner of his mouth. He was timid and angry as he stared at Xiaodong. Damn it, all of this was caused by this B*TCH. Get lost. Bailey Han shouted coldly. You just wait. I'll call the police. Zhou Zijian said stubbornly. Bailey Han sneered. Okay, my name is Bailey Han. You're welcome to call the police to arrest me at any time. Bailey Han. This name was almost a household name in City A. Of course, Zhou Zijian was no stranger to it. He didn't expect that he would be so unlucky to run into him. What was even more unfortunate was that his company had business dealings with Shanghao Group. Xiaodong swore that she had never seen a person change his face so quickly. After Zhou Zijian heard Bailey Han introduce himself, he was stunned for a second and immediately put on a smile. So it's President Bailey. It's all a misunderstanding. I'll take my leave first. You two have a good chat. Zhou Zijian was practically fleeing in panic. The people who were watching the show were also shocked. They were quietly gossiping in their hearts, guessing Xiaodong's identity. Who on earth was she? She actually defeated Su Yunqian and had Bailey Han under her thumb. Most importantly, she was pregnant. That woman seems to be the fiancée of Bo-Ao Group's president, Mika Kito. A person who liked to read gossip magazines recognized Xiaodong's identity and whispered to his companion. Ah, it really seems to be her. Isn't she Mika Kito's fiancée? How could she be pregnant with Bailey Han's child? The people in the cafe had already started gossiping in low voices. As for the two parties involved, Bailey Han naturally didn't care about those gossips. As for Xiaodong, he didn't have the time to pay attention to those gossips. He struggled hard and said in a low voice, "Bailey Han, let go of me. Come with me." Bailey Han suppressed his anger and grabbed Xiaodong's arm, wanting to take her away. "Let go of me, I won't go with you." Xiaodong stubbornly hugged the table and refused to let go. "You won't go? Then don't blame me for being impolite." Bailey Han suddenly bent down and picked her up. Everyone exclaimed. Awesome novel. Hongcha 866. Chapter 176. Bailey Han carried Xiaodong and strode out of the cafe under everyone's watchful eyes. Suzaku followed. Before he opened the car door, Suzaku blocked him and said coldly, "Bailey Han, let go of Xiaodong." There were too many people in the cafe just now, so it was inconvenient for her to make a move. But now she didn't care so much. Bailey Han sneered, "If you have the ability, beat my bodyguard first." As soon as he finished speaking, a cold-faced man in a black suit suddenly appeared in front of them. Bailey Han said coldly, "Du Bing, stop her." Suzaku suddenly attacked Bailey Han with her palm. Bailey Han carried Xiaodong and dodged to the side. Suzaku was tall, but her movements were extremely agile. She rushed in front of Suzaku like lightning and entangled her attack. Bailey Han let them fight to the death and carried Xiaodong to the front passenger seat. The moment he got into the car, Xiaodong wanted to escape. Unexpectedly, Du Bing, who was fighting with Suzaku, pressed her back against the car door as if she had eyes on the back of her head. Xiaodong couldn't push the door open no matter how hard she tried. The car started quickly. Xiaodong gave up the idea of escaping and stared at Bailey Han gloomily. "Where are you taking me?" "You'll know soon." They sped all the way. When they arrived at the destination, Xiaodong looked up and almost vomited blood. There was a sign hanging on the door of the building with the words, City A's Civil Affairs Bureau, written on it. What was going on? Was she hallucinating? Bailey Han dragged Xiaodong's handbag over and took out her ID card from her wallet. He grabbed her arm and said, "Get out of the car." "No, I don't want to." Xiaodong hugged the car door tightly. "Bailey Han, are you crazy? Why did you bring me here?" "We're here at the Civil Affairs Bureau to get our marriage certificate, of course. Don't tell me we're here for a day trip?" Bailey Han retorted sharply and used the same trick again. He bent down and picked her up directly. If it weren't for the baby in her belly, he would have carried her on his shoulder to save energy and convenience, so that she wouldn't keep struggling. "Bailey Han, let go of me. I don't want to marry you." Xiaodong pounded on his chest, kicked his legs, and bit his arm. She did everything she could to get him to leave. Bailey Han's face darkened. He lowered his head and glared at her. "We even have a child together. If you don't marry me, who else do you want to marry? Be child? Who said we have a child?" "Humph. The evidence is in your stomach. How dare you say you don't have it? You damned woman. I'll teach you a lesson after we get the marriage certificate." Bailey Han was almost angered to death by her. No, the child isn't yours." As they got closer to the Civil Affairs Bureau, Xiaodong was about to go crazy. She didn't give up and bit his arm. With tears in her eyes, she said vaguely, Are you going to let go or not?" Bailey Han let out a muffled groan as his brows furrowed in pain. "Not letting go." Xiaodong held the door tightly with both hands and thought quickly. "Bailey Han, marriage requires a household register. We don't have all the documents, so we can't go through with it." Bailey Han pulled hard, and her fingers slowly moved away from the doorframe. "Don't worry, I have all the documents, including your household register." Her fingers moved away from the doorframe inch by inch. Xiaodong was so anxious that she burst into tears. "Bailey Han, let me go, I don't want to get married." "I can do anything you want, but not this." Bailey Han had steeled his heart and couldn't be bothered to feel sorry for her. With a fierce tug, her entire body fell into his embrace and they finally left the main door. The staff of the Civil Affairs Bureau was stunned to see a man carrying a crying woman into the Civil Affairs Bureau in a flustered and exasperated manner. The man's face darkened as he yelled that he had to get the marriage certificate today, and the woman cried and begged him to let her go. This pair didn't look like they were here to get married, but to get divorced. the staff wiped the sweat from his forehead and asked carefully, "Are you two really here to get married? Without coercion, and completely of your own free will?" "Not of our own free will." As soon as Xiaodong cried out, Bailey Han covered her mouth at lightning speed. His other hand quickly took out a pile of documents from his pocket and slammed them on the desk. "Absolutely of our own free will. These are our documents. Please hurry up and get them processed." The staff saw that the woman kept blinking at him for help, and cold sweat dripped down his forehead. He wanted to say a few words of fairness, but after opening Bailey Han's household register and ID card, he immediately said seriously, "You two are indeed of your own free will. I'll process it for you now." It turned out that Bailey Han had already used his connections before he took Xiaodong to the Civil Affairs Bureau. Xiaodong was in despair. Had Bailey's black hand already reached out to the Civil Affairs Bureau? Because of the advance notice, a lot of procedures were skipped. During the photo shoot, Xiaodong refused to cooperate no matter what. In the end, with the help of 2 female staff, or to be exact, coercion, she was forced to take a photo with Bailey Han. The most miserable wedding photo in history was thus produced. Even many years later, when Xiaodong thought about it, she still hated it. After Bailey Han's scheme succeeded, he was overjoyed. He dragged along the disheartened Xiaodong and thanked the staff. The staff, especially the 2 who helped press Xiaodong's head, were full of guilt. They were afraid that Xiaodong would hate them for the rest of her life, so they smiled and waved their hands. They hurriedly sent them out, praying that they would not come tomorrow to process the divorce. "Bailey Han, you scoundrel, I hate you to death." After getting into the car and regaining her freedom, Xiaodong screamed and pounced on Bailey Han angrily. She bit his arm. That fierce bite caused blood to flow. Bailey Han gritted his teeth, but he did not make a sound. The taste of blood in her mouth stimulated Xiaodong's brain. She finally regained a trace of rationality. She loosened her teeth and glared at him with extreme hatred. Bailey Han smiled helplessly and patted her head. His eyes were full of affection. "Bite if you want. Vent your anger. Don't hold it in." Faced with his gentle gaze, Xiaodong suddenly couldn't bite down and started crying. She couldn't accept it. Couldn't accept it. Half an hour ago, she was still Miss Xia, and now she was Mrs. Bailey. She didn't want to. When she cried, he panicked. He gently hugged her in his arms and coaxed her like a child. "Don't cry. Be good. I will love you for the rest of my life." He swore to God that this was the first time he had said such explicit words. He used to think that these words were mushy, but when he said it to her now, it was so natural. It was as if he had said it to her 1,000 times. "Wah!" She cried even louder. She hit his back hard with both hands. "Why are you doing this? Why? Don't you know that there are a lot of problems between us? It's impossible for us to be together. Because I love you. I don't want you to marry someone else. When I saw you go on blind dates with other people, I was so jealous that I almost went crazy." Bailey Han hugged her tightly. He wanted nothing more than to melt her into his body. After they became one, he would never have to worry about her leaving him again. "Xia, don't be afraid. I know there are a lot of problems between us, but trust me. I will deal with it." He cupped her face and kissed the tears on her cheeks. His movements were gentle, as if he was treating a treasure. "Xia, trust me." She cried and shook her head. She did not believe him. She did not believe him at all. Bailey's family hated her so much. How could they accept her? And he was so perfect and charming. How could he fall in love with a woman who had given birth to a child? And what if he remembered what happened 5 years ago one day? What would he do? "My life is already a mess. Bailey Han, I beg you. Let me go. Let's get a divorce. Let's get a divorce now." She grabbed the door handle agitatedly and tried to open the car door. He held her shoulders and turned her around to face him. He stared at her teary eyes and said word by word, "I won't get a divorce. Don't even think about it." Xiaodong yelled in exasperation, "But I don't love you at all. I don't want to marry." Bailey Han directly used his own mouth to block her chattering little mouth. He wanted to use practical actions to tell her that he was already her husband, and there was no room for resistance. Her lips were soft and sweet. His original intention of kissing her slowly changed. He was intoxicated by it. He covered her angry eyes with one hand and gently teased her. Bailey Han stuck out his tongue and gently swept it across Xiaodong's lips. He lifted it slightly and slipped his tongue into her mouth while she was still in shock. The warm tip of his tongue moved nimbly. Waves of numbness rose from the bottom of her heart. Xiaodong could not help but moan. At this moment, her entire body was limp and she had no strength to resist. Even her mind was a little muddled. His hand had unknowingly slid to her waist and under her clothes. He gently caressed her soft skin and a warm current rushed to his abdomen. He wanted to take her, but he still had some rationality left. He could not hurt the baby in her stomach. It took him a lot of effort to control himself. He let go of her lips and pulled her into his embrace. He breathed heavily and calmed down a certain part of his body that was proudly sticking out. Xiaodong was also panting. Her eyes were filled with confusion. She lay on his chest and rested for a long time before she recovered her senses. When she looked down, she happened to see a small tent in his pants. Her face flushed red and she hurriedly climbed out of his embrace. Her cheeks were red as she looked out of the window, not daring to look at him. Bailey Han suppressed his desire. Although he was still very uncomfortable, he was in a good mood when he saw her shy expression. He lifted his hand to stroke the hair by her ear and chuckled softly. Xia, you have feelings for me too. I will make you fall in love with me. She was panting in his embrace just now. She was so soft and coquettish that he believed she had feelings for him. Because of his straightforward words, Xiaodong's face turned even redder. She said unhappily, "Pervert, I can't be bothered with you." Bailey Han laughed happily. His voice was low and hoarse and sounded extremely sexy. Attention, Xinwu 799. Chapter 177. The car had been on the road for half an hour. The ambiguity in the air had dissipated and Xiaodong had returned to normal. She coughed and asked, "How did you get my household register?" Bailey Han smirked. "It's a secret." When he had the idea of getting the marriage certificate, he had mentioned it to Xiao Bao. Unexpectedly, not only did the little rascal not object, she even strongly supported it and even sent Xiaodong's household register to him. He couldn't help but wonder when the little rascal had become so kind. Xiaodong rolled her eyes. "You don't have to tell me. You must have come to my house and stolen it." Bailey Han's smirk deepened, but he didn't explain. He couldn't betray the little rascal. Xiaodong pondered. Their marriage was already set in stone. No matter how much she cried, it wouldn't change this fact. She might as well gain his trust first, then steal the marriage certificate. She might as well go to the Civil Affairs Bureau to file for divorce. She didn't know if she could file for divorce without either party present. It didn't matter if she couldn't. She could ask Brother Shen for help. Yes, that's right. Right now, the most important thing was to keep their marriage a secret. Xiaodong rolled her eyes and said, "Bailey Han, I want to discuss something with you." Bailey Han frowned and was unhappy. Xia, we're already married. Do you still have to call me by such a stiff title?" Xiaodong had something to discuss with him, so she naturally lowered her attitude. "Then I'll call you Han like your family." Bailey Han's lips curved. "Call me hubby." "No." Xiaodong resisted firmly. He snorted. "I'm in a bad mood right now. I don't want to discuss anything." Okay, hubby," Xiaodong said the last two words after holding it in for a long time. She had goosebumps all over her body. "That's nice. Call me that again." Bailey Han raised his eyebrows and was full of joy. She frowned and said angrily, "Bailey Han, you did this on purpose." He sighed. "Forget it, I won't force you. But I'm in a bad mood again." Xiaodong wanted to beat him up in her heart. She called out again in frustration, "Hubby." "Yes, wife, what's the matter?" He looked at her with a smile. Her cheeks, which had returned to normal, began to warm up again. She looked away and stared straight ahead. "I want to discuss with you. Keep our marriage a secret for now. Don't let anyone know about it, including your family." His face darkened. "Why?" She had already thought of an excuse. With a bitter smile, she said, "You should have seen it this morning. Your grandmother hates me and doesn't want me to marry you. If they know that we're married, they definitely won't let it go. I just want to live a stable life." With a squeak, He stopped the car by the side of the road. He turned her shoulders around and his face was terrifyingly gloomy. Because of this, you lied to me and said that the baby is Mika Kito's. She didn't know how he came to the conclusion that the baby was his, but it wasn't important anymore. She sighed and said in a helpless tone, "That's right, Bailey Han. We're from two different worlds. Call me hubby." He stared into her eyes and insisted seriously. He had to cultivate this habit of hers. She pursed her lips and said, "Hubby," in a low voice. Then she said, "Do you agree with what I said just now?" Bailey Han ruffled her hair. "I originally planned to get our marriage certificate today and find a good day to hold the wedding within this month." She asked nervously, "What about now?" He chuckled. "Since you don't want to announce it to the public, I'll satisfy your request for the time being. We'll hold the wedding after I convince my family." He also hoped that their wedding would receive the blessings of the whole family. She smiled. "Thank you." He leaned over and kissed her forehead. "You're welcome, wife." Her face heated up again. Bailey Han sent her to her neighborhood. She wanted to go upstairs alone, but he didn't allow it. He grabbed her hand and dragged her out of the car without any explanation. In the elevator, Xiaodong looked worried. "Bailey Han. What did you call me?" Bailey Han's eyes narrowed dangerously. He suddenly bent over and kissed her on the lips. You. Let go of me." Xiaodong hit his chest. Just then, the elevator door opened and someone walked in. Xiaodong's face was flushed red. Bailey Han let go of her as if nothing had happened. He said in a low voice, "If you call me by the wrong name again, I'll use this method to gag you again." Xiaodong was embarrassed and angry at the same time. She pinched his waist hard. They walked out of the elevator and walked towards the door of their house. Xiaodong was like a snail behind them. Bailey Han didn't rush her. He turned around and waited for her patiently. She said helplessly, "Bailey Han. Hubby, my aunt is at home." He raised his eyebrows. "Great. Aunt is here. I'll tell her about us." "No, it's not good at all." Xiaodong quickly went forward and grabbed his arm. She said anxiously, "You promised me that you couldn't let anyone know about our marriage." Bailey Han's face darkened. "If I don't tell Aunt about our marriage, what if she arranges another blind date for you?" His eyes were filled with danger. She couldn't help but gulp. "At most, I'll find an excuse." He closed in on her. "You can find an excuse once or twice. Are you going to find an excuse every time? Tell her that we're married. This is the best way to solve the problem once and for all." He was already very upset that he couldn't announce their marriage to his family for the time being. How could he watch her go on another blind date? He might as well take his life. "No, we can't let Aunt know." Xiaodong anxiously grabbed his arm. He gripped her wrist tightly. His eyes were firm. Xia, don't be afraid. No matter what the problem is, we'll face it together." "No." Xiaodong shook her head violently. She wasn't mentally prepared yet. Moreover, her aunt would definitely not agree to it. "Hurry up and open the door." He put his arm around her shoulders and dragged her to the door. "I'm not opening it." She hugged her handbag tightly and refused to take out her keys. His lips curled into a smile. He reached out and pressed the doorbell. "Do you think I can't enter without a key?" Xiaodong couldn't stop him in time. She could only watch as her aunt opened the door. Xia this. "Mr. Bailey, what are you doing here?" Xia Yun looked at the two people at the door in surprise. Bailey Han even placed his hand on Xiaodong's shoulder. Bailey Han said calmly, "Aunt, Xia and I have good news for you." "Aunt?" Xia Yun thought she had misheard. Her lips twitched and she forced an ugly smile. "What's the matter? Come in and talk." In the living room, Xiao Guai and Xiao Bao were curled up on the sofa watching cartoons. "Mommy, Uncle Bailey." Xiao Guai blinked. Mommy and Uncle Bailey both had strange expressions on their faces. Xiao Bao stroked his chin. From Bailey Han's smug smile, he could already guess that his scheme had succeeded. Bailey Han smiled and patted Xiao Guai's head. He then patted Xiao Bao's little shoulder like the head of the family. "Xiao Bao, Xiao Guai, Uncle has something to discuss." Can you go back to your room first? Okay. The two children eagerly entered the room. Xiaodong hung her head dejectedly like a defeated rooster. Bailey Han secretly held her hand. The smile on his face had disappeared. He looked at Xia Yun seriously and said, "Aunt, Xia and I are married." What? Xia Yun was so excited that she almost jumped up from the sofa. Married? When did this happen? Just now. We went to the Civil Affairs Bureau to get our marriage certificate. Xia Yun took a while to recover from the huge shock. I don't believe it. Show me your marriage certificate. Bailey Han took out the newly released marriage certificate. Xia Yun trembled as she opened the marriage certificate. Although Xia Dong's expression in the photo was twisted and her movements were stiff, and there seemed to be someone holding her back and head, this was indeed a marriage certificate. A genuine marriage certificate. Xia Dong's eyes lit up when she saw the marriage certificate. She really wanted to pounce on it and snatch it. Xia Yun looked at it carefully 3 times. In the end, her eyes rolled back and she fainted on the sofa. Aunt. Xia Dong frantically pinched Xia Yun's philtrum. Bailey Han took an ice cube and put it on her forehead. After a few minutes, Xia Yun slowly woke up. The first thing she said was, "Divorce. Go and get a divorce now." Bailey Han said faintly, "The Civil Affairs Bureau is closed now." "Then go tomorrow. We have to get a divorce anyway. Aunt, Xia and I are already married. I won't agree to a divorce." Xia Yun removed the ice cube from her forehead and sat up. "Mr. Bailey, don't call me aunt. I don't deserve it. Xia and you are from 2 different worlds. You are not suitable for each other." Xia Dong hurriedly said, "Bailey Han, my aunt doesn't agree to it either. Let's get a divorce." Her voice became softer and softer because she noticed that Bailey Han's expression had turned very ugly. He was even glaring at her fiercely. Facing Xia Yun, Bailey Han remained polite and courteous. "Aunt, Xia is marrying me. I won't let her suffer any grievances." Xia Yun sighed. "Bailey Han, let me ask you. What do you like about Xia?" Bailey Han pursed his lips and said slowly, "I don't know. When I realized that I had fallen in love with her, I was already willing to give up my life for her." Xia Dong's heart trembled. She recalled how he had knocked her head and made her bleed. Xia Yun was stunned. After a moment of silence, she shook her head. "Even if you're sincere about her, I can't agree to it. Xia is a very simple person. She's not suitable for your family. Besides, your family won't accept her. If the outside world finds out, it will cause a huge uproar. The one who will be hurt is Xia. You know Xia's situation. She has to raise 2 children by herself. It's already very hard for her. She doesn't have the energy to deal with those troublesome things. If you really love her, then don't hurt her." Add Xinwu 799. Chapter 178. Auntie, I know what you're talking about. Bailey Han tightened his grip on Xia Dong's hand and turned to look at her. His eyes were firm and full of tenderness. "But I love her and I want to stay by her side to protect her. Xia looks strong on the outside, but she's actually very sensitive and insecure. She doesn't believe in love and will shrink back when it comes to matters of the heart. She doesn't believe in everlasting love and refuses to give up her heart. I will use my actions to prove that she won't regret marrying me. No matter how big the storm in the future is, I will protect her from it." Xia Dong's heart trembled. She didn't dare to look into his affectionate eyes and lowered her eyes. Xia Yun could tell that he was sincere about Xia Dong. Her initial determination to oppose the marriage was also wavering. Xiao Bao and Xiao Guai were both Bailey Han's children. If they could be together, wouldn't it be a good thing for the children? However, there were too many problems between them. Could Bailey Han really withstand the pressure from his family? After thinking for a long time, she sighed and rubbed her forehead. "How about this, Bailey Han? I'll give you 2 months. If you can make your family accept Xia within 2 months, I'll approve of your marriage. If you can't do it, you can get a divorce. In these 2 months, you have to keep your marriage a secret and you can't live together. Everything will remain the same." Bailey Han agreed. 2 months wasn't a long time. If he wanted to change his family's opinion of Xiaodong, he had to start from the root. He had to find the reason why they were rejecting her and then deal with it. After sending Xia Yun off, Bailey Han dragged Xiaodong back to her room. Bailey Han locked the door. "Take off your clothes." Xiaodong crossed her arms and looked at him warily. "What are you trying to do?" He raised his eyebrows in amusement. "Did you apply medicine to your shoulder? Let me take a look at your injury." Only then did Xiaodong realize that he was talking about the injury she got when she blocked the old madam's walking stick in the morning. Her cheeks couldn't help but blush. "It's okay. I've already applied medicine. Let me take a look. If you don't take it off, I'll do it myself." Bailey Han didn't believe her at all. Xiaodong's cheeks reddened even more. You can go out first." The corners of his lips curled up. He really opened the door and walked out. Xiaodong took out a spaghetti-strap nightgown from the wardrobe. After changing into it, she called Bailey Han in. The moment he entered the room, he saw that she was wearing a spaghetti-strap nightgown that exposed her shoulders. It was soft and pink, and the dress was knee-length, revealing her slender and exquisite calves. She combed her hair uncomfortably and explained, "It's easier to see my shoulders when I wear this dress." His eyes darkened as he brushed away the long hair on her shoulder. There was a bruise on her right shoulder. Her skin was fair to begin with, so the bruise was especially glaring. He was instantly enraged. From the looks of it, the bruise had not been treated at all, yet she had lied to him. "Don't move." Although he was angry, his voice was very gentle. When he was chased out by her, he went to ask Xiao Bao. He found the family medical kit and took out the ointment to treat external injuries. He carefully applied it to her bruise. After applying the ointment, Xiaodong took a shawl and put it on. She coughed and said, "It's getting late. Shouldn't you go back?" "Wifey, I want to spend more time with you." At the thought that this little woman had become his wife, he couldn't suppress the excitement in his heart. He wanted to hold her in his arms and not let go for even a moment. Xiaodong laughed dryly. "Didn't you promise Xiao Yi that you would eat dinner with him every day? You should hurry home." He stretched out his arm and easily pulled her into his embrace. Her soft and fragrant body moved restlessly in his embrace. He started to feel restless and helplessly curled his lips. "I really want to marry you as soon as possible." Xiaodong pushed him. "Aren't we already married?" He was like a child who didn't get his candy. He rubbed his head against her head and sighed sadly. "I'm talking about living together." Xiaodong blushed. He suddenly lowered his head and kissed her lips. His warm lips pressed tightly against hers. He hugged her and suddenly turned around. She was already facing him. He lifted the back of her head with one hand and hugged her waist with the other. The refreshing masculine scent invaded her senses. His lips and tongue were soft and full of possessiveness, as if he wanted to tear her apart and eat her up. She felt a strong sense of oppression and uneasily pushed against his chest. He grabbed her hand and softened his movements at the right time. His kiss was as fragrant as wine, gradually captivating her. His burning hot palm landed on her shoulders and slowly moved down. The strap of her dress slid down to her chest, and her softness was on the verge of bursting out. The contradictory feeling of being cold and burning hot woke her up. She couldn't help but moan as she pushed his arm away. He seemed to have woken up from a dream. He hugged her tightly and panted heavily. She calmed her breathing and said unhappily, "You promised my aunt that you wouldn't touch me in the future." He laughed deeply and his voice was a little hoarse. "I only promised her that I wouldn't live together with you." She gritted her teeth. "In my opinion, it means the same thing." He laughed happily. "That only means that my wife has misunderstood me." Scram. Xiaodong punched him on the back and pushed him away. He stroked her hair gently and said reluctantly, "Wife, I'm leaving. See you tomorrow." Hurry up and leave. If she didn't leave now, he would take advantage of her completely. She finally sent him off. Xiaodong hugged her shoulders and curled up on the sofa. She was still in a daze. This day had been too full of ups and downs. She still felt that it was unreal. She didn't know how to explain to old madam. She was so frustrated. She scratched her head angrily. The doorbell suddenly rang. It was Suzaku. Her beautiful face was as cold as an iceberg. The first thing she said when she saw her was an apology. I'm sorry that I didn't protect you well. Did Bailey Han hurt you? It's okay. It's not your fault. Xia Dong laughed dryly. She didn't dare to tell her that Bailey Han had forced her to register her marriage. If she told her, she would definitely report it to Brother Shin. Then things would get troublesome. Xia Dong coughed. You, on the other hand, didn't that Du Bing guy hurt you? Suzaku snorted. He doesn't have the ability to hurt me. Losing the person she was protecting was a great humiliation to her. One day, she would make that Du Bing guy pay the price. The two of them didn't say anything else. Suzaku went home to rest. Xia Dong went into the kitchen to prepare dinner. Unexpectedly, the doorbell rang again. She thought that Suzaku had returned. She didn't expect it to be a delivery man. Xia Dong asked curiously, "Did you make a mistake?" "I didn't order delivery." "It's here. The person who ordered it has already paid. Please sign here." Xia Dong had no choice but to sign her name. She carried the snack box back to the living room. When she opened it, there were many delicious dishes. They looked, smelled, and tasted good, which aroused her appetite. Her phone suddenly rang. Bailey Han chuckled. "Honey, has the delivery arrived?" "So it was you who ordered it." Xia Dong had always suspected that they had sent it to the wrong door. "How are the dishes? Do you like them?" He could almost imagine her expression after being confused. He couldn't help but smile. "They're good. Thank you." She didn't expect him to be so attentive. "You guys eat first. I'll call you in the evening." Bailey Han said a few words and ended the call. Xia Dong called the two little guys to eat. When they saw that it was takeout, they were very puzzled. Ever since their mommy resigned, she had been cooking for them. Xia Dong explained that it was Uncle Bailey who ordered it. Xiao Bao smiled strangely. "Mom, I forgot to tell you something. I'm no longer against Bailey Han being my daddy." Why is that? Haven't you always hated him?" Xia Dong wiped her sweat. She felt that something was wrong. It was as if her son was hinting at something. Xiao Bao shrugged and said nonchalantly, "Because I realized that I misunderstood him. Since the misunderstanding has been resolved, I have no reason to hate him." "I don't want," Xiao Guai pouted. "Uncle Bailey isn't bad, but I like Uncle Shen more. I want Uncle Shen to be my daddy." Xiao Bao patted Xiao Guai's head. "Gigai, don't forget that Bailey Han is our biological daddy. Although Uncle Shen is very good, don't you want to reunite with your brother Yi?" Xiao Guai burst into tears. "But what should I do? I really like Uncle Shen." Xiao Bao felt very guilty. He actually made his sister cry. He quickly jumped off the chair and patted her shoulder to comfort her. "Don't cry, Gigai. Even if Uncle Shen isn't our daddy, he will still love us." Xiao Guai looked at him with tears in her eyes. "Really?" Little Treasure nodded heavily. "Of course it's true." Xiao Guai sobbed and hesitated for a long time. "All right then. I also agree to Uncle Bailey being my daddy." The two little guys looked at Xia Dong together. Xia Dong took a tissue and wiped her daughter's tears, pretending not to see the desire in their eyes. "Mommy," Xiao Bao hugged Xia Dong's arm and started to act cute. "Can you and Daddy make up?" Xia Dong was helpless. "Baby, don't be like this. Bailey Han and I are very complicated. In short, we can't be together." "Isn't it just the old madam? Just you wait. I have a way to make her agree." Xiao Bao patted his chest confidently. Xia Dong was speechless. She thought of something more important. "Baby, Gigai, you must not let others know that you are Bailey Han's children. Do you understand?" Xiao Guai pouted. Her eyes were wet and she looked pitiful. "But I also want to be like other children and have mommy and daddy." "Gigai, I'm sorry." Xia Dong hugged her, her heart aching. She didn't know how to explain. For the first time, she doubted her own idea of not getting married. Was she too selfish? Because she was timid and didn't dare to trust men, she deprived her children of the right to enjoy their father's love. Beauty novel, Xinwu 799. Chapter 179. Mom, just believe in Bailey Han. Oh no, Daddy, just this once. I think Daddy is a good person. He won't lie to you. Xiao Bao's soft little body rubbed against her as she spoke up for Bailey Han. Sigh, it felt strange to call him Daddy for the first time. The children's tender voices hit her heart again and again. She gradually began to waver. Two little people appeared in her mind. One of them kept persuading her. Believe in him. Believe in him. Give him a chance. The other little person retorted angrily. You can't believe in him. Men can't be trusted. They're all animals who think with their lower bodies. The little person from before disagreed. Bailey Han is different from those men. If he really only thinks with his lower body, he wouldn't have hit his head and bled from the aphrodisiac last time. Her rationality and indifference collapsed at this moment. She gritted her teeth and steeled her heart. She said, Okay, I'll give him a chance. On the other side, Bailey Han was having dinner with Xiao Yi. He thought for a moment and probed, Xiao Yi, what do you think of Auntie Xiaodong? Xiao Yi puffed up her cheeks and thought for a moment. She said expressionlessly, Not bad. Not bad? This answer was very general. Bailey Han frowned and asked again, Then if your mommy was like Chief Editor Xia, would you like her? Xiao Yi's mouth twitched. Daddy, just say that you want to marry Auntie Xiaodong. Isn't that enough? Just take it as that's what I meant. Bailey Han was speechless. Was he being despised by his own son? Xiao Yi secretly curved her lips. I won't object. Actually, he had already heard from Xiao Bao that Daddy and Mommy had already registered their marriage at the Civil Affairs Bureau. He was now a child with Mommy. No. He hadn't accepted that woman yet. Humph. Bailey Han finally shattered the stone in his heart. He coughed and said, Actually, we have already registered our marriage. Xiao Yi looked indifferent. Oh, congratulations. How did his son become so indifferent? When he found out that he was going to marry Su Yunqian, he made a huge fuss. Bailey Han felt a chill run down his spine. He touched his forehead and asked worriedly, Xiao Yi, do you have a fever? Xiao Yi grinned, revealing her cute little white teeth. No, I'm fine. Bailey Han was still puzzled. He carefully observed his son and did not see any dissatisfaction. Instead, he looked very happy. When he went upstairs after dinner, he even hummed a little tune. Only then did he feel relieved. He truly believed that his son had accepted the fact that he was married to Xiaodong. At 9 o'clock in the evening, Bailey Han called. Once she decided to give him a chance, Xiaodong had a strange feeling in her heart when she was with him. For example, when he smiled, she could feel his smile even though she couldn't see his face. Her mood also became lighter. When he said that he missed her, her heart would race and she would involuntarily imagine his handsome face. God, was she going to fall so soon? Xiaodong patted his burning face. On the other end of the phone, Bailey Han heard a suspicious sound and asked, What's wrong? She laughed dryly. I'm swatting mosquitoes. He chuckled and said, I just told Xiao Yi about us. He paused abominably. Xiaodong couldn't help but feel nervous. She asked nervously, Then what did he say? Xiao Yi hated her so much. He definitely wouldn't agree. He definitely wouldn't. Bailey Han chuckled softly. Xiao Yi said that he congratulated us. She couldn't believe it. Really? Really. He was in a good mood, but he was a little regretful that he couldn't see her expression at this moment. I think that when we live together in the future, Xiao Yi might agree to call you Mommy. He seems to like you a lot. Xiaodong's eyes were covered with a layer of mist. She pinched the back of her hand. It hurt. She really wasn't dreaming. Xiao Yi was willing to accept her. However, before she could be happy for a minute, old Madam's cold and heartless face suddenly appeared in her mind, along with her cold ultimatum. She gripped the phone tightly and said in a nervous voice, Bailey Han, do you really have a way to convince your family? He chuckled softly. Wifey, you have to believe in your husband's ability. She kicked her toes in a panic. Then, it's getting late. Hurry up and go to sleep. I'm hanging up. Don't hang up yet. I want to hear you call me. He lay down comfortably on the sofa and began the most boring conversation between a prostitute. I don't want to. She sniffed her little nose arrogantly. He threatened, If you don't call me, I'll punish you tomorrow. You know what I mean by punishment. She was furious. If you dare to punish me, we'll get a divorce. Bailey Han imagined her blushing face and was in such a good mood that he didn't know what to say. From time to time, he would let out a low chuckle. Xia Dong deeply felt that she had been mocked by him. She didn't even say good night and hung up the phone. Why did this man become so shameless after getting married? He was the legendary man who was cold on the outside but passionate on the inside. Xia Dong felt like she had jumped into a fire pit. Bailey Han wanted to investigate why Madame Gu's family members were so against Xia Dong. It would be useless to investigate from Madame Gu's side. He thought about it and called his most trusted subordinate in the Dragon Gang, Ahu. He asked Ahu to investigate Xia Dong's past and the feud between her and Bailey's family. He had actually suspected that he and Xia Dong knew each other 5 years ago. Perhaps, the results of the investigation could solve all the mysteries. He went to the hospital where Xiao Guai was hospitalized last time and said a lot of good things to the doctor. He also showed the doctor his marriage certificate with Xia Dong. Only then did the doctor tell him about Xiao Guai's illness. Doctor, can Xiao Guai's illness be cured? Bailey Han didn't expect Xiao Guai to have such a serious illness. He was worried and his heart ached for Xia Dong. We can perform an umbilical cord blood transplant. Bailey Han's eyes were sharp. Then why don't we perform the surgery? We need your wife to give birth to a child with the same genes as Xiao Guai. We need to extract the newborn's umbilical cord blood and perform the transplant. Your wife is already pregnant. After she gives birth, we can perform the surgery. The doctor didn't understand why Bailey Han, as Xia Dong's husband, didn't know about the child's illness and his wife's pregnancy. However, he was curious at most and didn't dare to ask. Bailey Han's breathing stopped instantly. His deep eyes were filled with unprecedented shock. All the information intertwined in his mind. A child with the same genes, Xiao Guai's illness, and the remaining image of him and Xia Dong in his mind. All these things were mixed together and kept spinning in his mind. His hands and feet started to turn cold. All the blood in his body rushed to his head. His head suddenly hurt. He hugged his head and leaned back in his chair in pain. The doctor was shocked by his pale face. Mr. Bailey, are you okay? Bailey Han bit his lower lip tightly. He resisted the headache and couldn't say a word. Mr. Bailey? The doctor called twice, but he didn't respond. Just as he was about to call the nurse in, Bailey Han suddenly stood up and walked out of the door with a blank expression. He didn't know when the pain in his head subsided. Bailey Han didn't even know how he walked out of the doctor's office. He was like a walking corpse, sitting blankly in the corridor for a long time. In the end, he smashed his fist on the chair, stood up with a whoosh, and walked out in large strides. His entire body emitted a terrifying aura, and his pair of eyes that were as deep as a cold pond were bottomless, accumulating a turbulent storm. Xia Dong was teaching Xiao Guai how to draw when she suddenly heard the urgent sound of the doorbell. When she opened the door, Bailey Han was standing in front of her like a cold Satan. He exuded a terrifying aura and she couldn't help but take a step back. What happened? He stared at her. His gaze was as sharp as a knife and he couldn't wait to cut into her skin. What's the matter with you? Xia Dong felt her hair stand on end from his stare. She had a bad feeling. He glanced at Xiao Guai, who was sitting in the living room and staring at him curiously. He pursed his lips and said in a cold voice, Go to your room. Gigai, go back to your room first. Mommy will teach you how to draw later. Xia Dong reminded him and followed Bailey Han into her room. Bailey Han, what's the matter with you? He was too scary when he didn't say a word. He stared at her with anger and pain in his eyes. Why did you lie to me? She gritted her teeth. Tell me clearly. When did I lie to you? He held her shoulders with both hands and his voice was as cold as ice. Xiao Guai's illness requires the blood of a child with the same genes. And you are pregnant with my child now. Xia Dong, do I need to say more? Xiao Guai and Xiao Bao are my children, aren't they? He almost shouted the last sentence. He had never been so angry or so pained before. She had actually lied to him. He had never expected that they would have such a past. He gripped her shoulders agitatedly. His hands were like iron claws, gripping her shoulders painfully. She didn't struggle or retort. The lie that she had covered up for so long was finally exposed. It was as if her soul had been sucked out of her and she had lost her luster and spirit. She grinned. You've already found out. That's good too. I don't want to hide it anymore. It's been so hard. Tell me, what happened back then? What was going on with little Wingsy? Why did you lie to me? Bailey Han was agitated. His questions bombarded her like a cannonball. She laughed hysterically until tears flowed out of her eyes. Okay, I'll tell you everything. I'll tell you everything. Since she had been exposed, there was no need for her to hide it anymore. She told him everything about how she stole his seed, how she was framed and fled to Japan, how Xiao Guai was sick and had no choice but to return to China to seduce him. She told him everything. After telling him everything, her tears dried up and she was numb and expressionless. Attention, Song Shu 566. Chapter 180. Now you've seen my true colors. It's completely different from what you imagined, isn't it? Will you still love me? If the answer is no, let's get a divorce. His face was already ashen and his entire person was like a statue. Only the eerie coldness in his eyes made people feel that he was still alive. He pursed his thin lips tightly and didn't say a word. She smiled coldly and searched around the room expressionlessly. She found her identity card and household register. Let's go. We'll go through the divorce procedures now. She turned to leave, but he suddenly grabbed her arm from behind. She was caught off guard and fell into his embrace. His deep and cold voice was filled with anger. You heartless woman. Because of you, Xiao Yi lost 4 years of motherly love. Because of you, he was lonely for 4 years. Do you know that? I know. I've let Xiao Yi down and I've let you down. So, Bailey Han, you see, I've already received my retribution. I abandoned my son and my daughter fell seriously ill. I had no choice but to come back. I abandoned my pride and abandoned myself. I humbly approached you and shamelessly seduced you. Tears streamed down her face. She was out of breath and choked with sobs. Damn it. He should hate her. Why did his heart feel like it was being cut by a knife when he heard her trampling on him with those words? Shut up. Don't say anything else. He fiercely punched the wall. The skin on the back of his hand was scraped and bleeding, but he didn't feel the pain because the pain in his heart had long suppressed the pain in his body. Bailey Han, your hand. She went forward, wanting to check the wound on his hand. Get lost. I don't want you to care about me. Bailey Han was like an angry lion. He slapped her right hand away and there was immediately a red mark on the back of her fair hand. He flew into a rage and his entire body was filled with cold anger. Like lightning, he rushed out of the room and slammed the door with a bang. Facing the empty room, Xia Dong slumped onto the sofa. The calmness that he had forced himself to maintain immediately collapsed, and tears streamed down his face. She knew that once the truth was exposed, he would mercilessly dump her. She was right. But why was she so sad? Why was her heart aching? Bailey Han's angry roar and the sound of the door slamming had already alerted the 2 children. Xiao Bao coaxed his sister back to her room and knocked on Xia Dong's door, calling out, Mommy, Mommy. Xia Dong wiped away the tears on her face and calmed herself down before opening the door. Mommy, did you guys fight? Xiao Bao's tender face was filled with worry. She bit her lip and squeezed out an ugly smile. No, we just have some disagreements. They were clearly quarreling, and their voices were very loud. Mommy had even cried, and her eyes were red. Xiao Bao's heart ached. Although she didn't know why they were quarreling, she still hated Bailey Han to the core. It was all his fault for making Mommy sad. She really didn't know if bringing them together was the right thing to do. Xiao Bao puffed up her cheeks and sighed silently. Mommy, have a good rest. I will take care of Gigai. Xiao Bao knew that she buried everything in her heart, so she didn't ask any more. After returning to her room and thinking about it, she was still worried, so she called Yi Siki and told him about it. Yi Siki still didn't know that Xia Dong and Bailey Han had registered their marriage. When she heard Xiao Bao say this, she was so shocked that she jumped up from the sofa. She didn't have time to ask about the quarrel and rushed to Xia Dong's house with Nyonyo. Yi Siki let Nyonyo play with Xiao Bao and Xiao Guai while she dragged Xia Dong into her room. Seeing that her eyes were red, she asked carefully, Xia, what happened? Did you and Bailey Han quarrel? Xia Dong didn't say a word, but her tears started falling. Yi Siki suddenly panicked. She quickly hugged her shoulders and comforted her. Xia, don't cry. Did Bailey Han scold you? It's okay, it's okay. You know that he has a bad temper. Please don't take it to heart. Xia Dong wiped her tears and choked out. Yezi, he knows. He knows everything. He must hate me to death now. Yi Siki was shocked. She knew that the situation was serious. She sighed and said, Xia, you should explain things clearly. When he understands your difficulties, I think he will forgive you. Even she herself felt that she didn't have enough confidence in the last sentence. Xia Dong cried until she was out of breath. He won't forgive me. He told me to get lost and not to care about him. She covered her mouth with her right hand and sobbed uncomfortably. Yi Siki saw the red mark on the back of her hand and her eyes narrowed. What happened to your hand? Did he hit you? Xia Dong covered her mouth and didn't say a word. Yi Siki's anger suddenly surged. She gritted her teeth and said, That damned bastard. How dare he hit a woman? I misjudged him. If she had known this would happen, she wouldn't have helped him in the first place. She was very upset. Xia Dong sobbed. Actually, he didn't do it on purpose. You're still speaking up for him. Yi Siki was so angry that her teeth were about to shatter. She stood up and said angrily, You rest at home. I'll go look for him and make him give me an explanation. He hit his wife right after they got married. No matter how angry he was, he shouldn't have done such a thing. Was he still a man? Xia Dong hugged her arm and said, Yi, don't go. He told me not to care about him. I don't want to get close to him and humiliate myself again. She had wanted to give him a chance at the beginning. She had thought that she was crazy and had lost her mind. She would never get close to him and make him hate her again. After being stopped by her, Yi Siki gradually calmed down. She held her arm and said, Let me apply the ointment for you first. Xia Dong's skin was sensitive to begin with. Even if she held her arm tightly, there would still be red marks on her wrist. Not to mention, Bailey Han's angry slap had caused the red marks to be blood red and a little swollen. After applying the ointment on the back of her hand, Xia Dong's emotions gradually calmed down. Yi Siki patted her shoulder and said, Let's go. I'll take you out to have some fun and relax. Xia Dong smiled bitterly and said, What about the child? Are you stupid? Send him to your aunt's house and ask her to take care of him for a while. Forget it. I don't want to trouble my aunt. Yi Siki stared at her and said, Then why are you sitting at home so sadly? What if the child finds out? Did you know? When Xiao Bao called me just now, he was so worried that he was about to cry. Go out and relax. The sooner you recover, the better you'll be able to take care of the child. Xia Dong felt bad when she thought about how the children were worried about her. In the end, she agreed to Yi Siki's suggestion. She put on some makeup to hide her red eyes, changed her clothes, and tidied her hair. The 2 adults and the 3 children drove to Xia Yun's house. After Gao Mingyuan went to work, Xia Yun was alone at home. She couldn't wait for the children to stay at home and accompany her every day. She happily welcomed the children into the house. Yizi, what are we going to do now? She had been taking care of the children all these years. Now that she was alone, she didn't know how to pass the time. Go shopping, go to the beauty salon, eat, watch movies, karaoke, go to the bar. There are so many choices. We can do them one by one. Yi Siki hadn't gone out with her best friend for a long time. First, they went to the beauty salon for a spa. Then they went shopping like crazy. They bought a bunch of things and piled them in the back seat of the car. If it weren't for the fact that Xia Dong was pregnant, the 2 of them would have continued shopping. In the evening, they found a very stylish Western restaurant. The 2 women had a romantic time together, which attracted the attention of many couples. They suspected that their relationship was unusual. After the 2 of them came out, they pointed at each other's noses and laughed heartily. It was as if they hadn't laughed so happily in a long time. Let's go. I'll take you to karaoke now. Yi Siki patted her chest heroically and carried Xia Dong into a karaoke place in high spirits. The two women hugged each other's shoulders and roared out love songs one after another. The waiter who delivered the drinks couldn't help but look sideways. His hand even trembled when he put down the drinks. There were many opportunities to see comrades, but this was the first time he saw Les Lace. He was so excited. The two of them sang for more than an hour. When they were tired, they lay on the sofa and laughed foolishly. Yi Siki went to the bathroom and came back to find Xia Dong curled up in the corner of the sofa, asleep. She shook her head with heartache. She was probably too tired. Yi Siki nudged her shoulder. Xia, don't sleep. I'll take you home. Xia Dong rubbed her eyes in a daze. Herbert leaned against the front passenger seat and she fell asleep again. Yi Siki finally got her home. Then she called Bailey Han and asked him where he was. She wanted to see him. Cham ba. Bailey Han's face was gloomy as he drank glass after glass of alcohol sullenly. Xiao Tiansheng couldn't stand it anymore. He sat down beside him and snatched the glass from his hand. Han, what the hell happened? You're so cold that it's comparable to the Antarctic icebergs. Bailey Han glanced coldly at the glass in his hand. Give it to me. Stop drinking. If you keep drinking, I'm worried you'll have stomach bleeding. Xiao Tiansheng rarely saw him drink so heavily. To be exact, this was the second time. The first time he drank so sullenly was 5 years ago, when Su Yunqian went to England. If he snatched his glass, he could just grab another one. Bailey Han stretched out his long arm and took an empty glass from the bar. He poured vodka into the glass and poured it into his mouth. Xiao Tiansheng couldn't help but frown. If he continued drinking like this, he would collapse soon. Xiao Tiansheng patted him on the shoulder. Go away. Don't worry about me. Bailey Han swatted his arm away and downed another glass of wine. His gaze was as cold as a lake as he stared at him. I've always treated you as a friend, but I didn't expect that you would lie to me with them. Xiao Tiansheng was shocked. Where did that come from? When have I ever lied to you? He sneered. Do you remember when I asked you if you knew Xia Dong? What did you say to Yun? You said that you and Xia Dong were old friends and that you pursued her. Why don't you say that we were old friends? Awesome novel, Hongcha 866. Chapter 181. Xiao Tiansheng's cold gaze was like a nail that was ruthlessly hammered into his body. His forehead was covered in cold sweat as he stammered. Han, why you remember now? Bailey Han said coldly, even if I didn't remember, I already know the truth. Why did you hide it from me? Xiao Tiansheng frowned miserably. He wanted to find an excuse, but couldn't come up with one at that moment. He was anxious. He stammered for a long time. Bailey Han didn't rush him. He just stared at him with a cold gaze, leaving him with nowhere to hide. God, when had he, Xiao Tiansheng, ever been in such a sorry state? Just as Xiao Tiansheng was complaining, a beautiful woman in a light yellow dress rushed over angrily. Without saying a word, she slapped Bailey Han across the face. What was going on? Not only was Bailey Han stunned, Xiao Tiansheng was also stunned. Bailey Han was the first to react. He grabbed the woman's hand and said angrily, Yi Siki, are you crazy? Yi Siki said angrily, me crazy? That slap was for Xia. Bailey Han, are you still a man? How dare you hit Xia? Bailey Han's anger was stuck in his throat. When did I hit her? If you didn't hit her, then what's with the bruise on the back of her hand? Something flashed past Bailey Han's mind, and his expression changed. That's right, she wanted to pull him back in the afternoon, but he flung her arm away. Guilt and heartache surged into his heart. He didn't do it on purpose. He was just angry and didn't know how to control his strength. Yi Siki saw his expression and knew that he had remembered. She said coldly, You remember now? Bailey Han, I shouldn't have helped you back then. I thought you were true to Xia. I didn't expect you to hurt her like this. Even if Mika Kito is in the underworld, he didn't lay a finger on Xia. Bailey Han was a proud son of God. When had he ever been lectured like this? He immediately pulled a long face, but he couldn't explain what had happened. He felt aggrieved. I was true to her. She was the one who lied to me first. I didn't hit her on purpose. Xiao Tianxing saw that they were at daggers drawn, so he quickly said, Miss Yi, right? You must be Xiaodong's good friend. Please don't misunderstand. Han really likes Xiaodong. He wouldn't hurt her on purpose. Yi Siki wasn't an unreasonable person. When she saw Bailey Han's guilty gaze, she knew that he didn't do it on purpose. However, she had already given him a slap just now, so she naturally had to put on airs. Otherwise, it would seem that she was being unreasonable. She snorted coldly. Bailey Han, you keep saying that Xiaodong lied to you. Do you know why she did that? Bailey Han's expression was cold as he waited for her answer. Your old lady used the lives of Xia Xia's aunt and uncle to threaten Xia Xia. She said that if she didn't give her the children, she would stab her in the back. How do you expect Xia Xia to choose? The old lady didn't know that Xia Xia was pregnant with 3 children. She took away the firstborn, Xiao Yi, and Xia Xia had a hard time keeping Xiao Bao and Xiao Guai. In order to save Xiao Guai, she had no choice but to return to China. She originally wanted to borrow your sperm to give birth to the children through IVF, but you lost your memory and didn't believe what she said. Think about it carefully. Is that true? Bailey Han's mind suddenly exploded, and many images flooded his mind. She did say that her daughter was sick and asked her to help her, but he thought she was lying and even said many outrageous things to humiliate her. Saving Xiao Guai was urgent, but Xia Xia couldn't gain your trust. Other than stealing your sperm, what else could she do? Actually, she was very conflicted and in pain. She hid what happened in the past because she didn't want to ruin your relationship with Su Yunqian. Yi Siki became more agitated as she spoke. Bailey Han, you still don't know, right? While she was trying to get close to you, your old lady kept giving her trouble and telling her to stay away from you. As a woman, do you know how much pressure she was under and how much humiliation she suffered? She practically shouted the last sentence at him. Her eyes were red as she raised her chin proudly to maintain her pride. It was as if by doing this, she could maintain Xiaodong's self-esteem. I've said everything that needs to be said. Don't think that other than you, no one else wants Xia Xia. Mika Kito has been pursuing her for 5 years. After saying this, Yi Siki proudly turned around and left the 2 men with her beautiful back view. Yi Siki was very agitated and hurried away. She didn't notice that there was a couple sitting in the corner of the bar. The man was her husband, Lin Shihao, and the woman was Bai Mei Wei. Bai Mei Wei seemed to be troubled by something as she drank until her eyes were hazy. Lin Shihao was trying to grab her glass and persuade her to drink less. Bailey Han was shocked by Yi Siki's words. His heart was filled with mixed feelings. He clenched his fists tightly and his deep eyes were as dark as water. Xiao Tiansheng couldn't help but exclaim, Yi Siki, although this woman is a little fierce, she's still quite interesting. She was willing to sacrifice herself for a friend. A hint of admiration rose in his eyes. He was still chattering when Bailey Han suddenly broke into a run. Han, where are you going? Xiao Tianxing quivered. He couldn't be going to look for Xiaodong, right? He hurriedly chased after him and shouted, You're drunk. You can't drive. Send me back. The cold-faced god finally rewarded him with 3 words. Yi Siki returned home. Her daughter, Nyonyo, had already been sent home by Xiayun. She was lying on the bed, asleep. Lin Shihao hadn't returned yet. She called him, but he only answered after a long time. His voice was very low. Honey, I'm working overtime tonight. You sleep first. Okay. Drive carefully. Yi Siki didn't suspect anything. She reminded him a few more times before hanging up. Lin Shihao turned his head to look at the drunk Bai Mei Wei in the front passenger seat. He sighed. He had actually lied to Siki. He had almost subconsciously lied. He comforted himself that he didn't want Siki to misunderstand. Bai Mei Wei was nestled in the seat. She wasn't sleeping very well. She frowned and murmured softly, Senior. Senior. Lin Shihao rubbed his brows and leaned over to buckle her seatbelt. When he got up, she suddenly raised her head. The 2 of them bumped into each other, and their mouths touched. Her soft lips touched his. He got up in a panic, but she suddenly reached out and hugged his waist tightly. Her nimble tongue gently teased his lips. Hot and passionate breaths lingered between the 2 of them. He panted heavily and pushed her away forcefully. She opened her misty eyes. They were watery, and she looked very lovable. Senior, I like you. I like you so much. Lin Shihao's heart thumped wildly in his chest. He straightened his body. Mei Wei, you're drunk. I'll take you back. I'm not drunk, I really like you. Mei Wei was on the verge of tears, her pink lips slightly pouting. It's because I like you that I messed up the blind date my daddy arranged, and that's why I was scolded by my daddy. So this was the reason why she was in a bad mood and dragged him to drink. Lin Shihao sighed. Mei Wei, don't say any more. You're drunk. He would forget all these words. He couldn't betray his wife. He wanted to start the car, but Mei Wei suddenly turned to the side and hugged his arm. She said pitifully, Senior, I like you. I don't ask for status. I just want to be with you. Mei Wei. Lin Shihao pushed her away with a headache. I'll just take it that you're drunk. Don't say these words again. I won't betray my wife. Mei Wei had only confessed under the guise of alcohol. Being rejected by him so harshly, she felt terrible and started to sob. He pulled out a tissue and handed it to her, but she didn't take it. She turned to face the window and cried quietly. She didn't understand what was wrong with her. She was young, beautiful, and capable. On the other hand, although Yi Siki was very beautiful, she was obviously a haggard woman. What did she have that made Lin Shihao so devoted to her? The more Mei Wei thought about it, the more indignant she felt. She gritted her teeth and swore to herself that she would capture Lin Shihao's heart. They sped all the way. Xiao Tiansheng sent Bailey Han to Xia Dong's apartment building. Bailey Han was already a little drunk. When he got out of the car, he was already staggering. Xiao Tiansheng wanted to help him, but he pushed him away. He frowned and said, You go back. I'll go up myself. All right then. Call me if you need anything. Xiao Tianxing knew his temper and didn't insist. Bailey Han waved casually and turned to go upstairs. Xiao Tianxing didn't leave immediately. He sat in the driver's seat and watched him enter the building. Standing in front of Xia Dong's apartment building, Bailey Han rubbed his eyebrows and tried to sober himself up. He pressed the doorbell. The doorbell rang for a long time, but no one answered. He got a little impatient and took out his cell phone to call Xia Dong. The phone rang for a long time, but still, no one answered. He supported himself with one hand against the wall and dialed again and again. Suddenly, the call went through. Xia Dong's groggy voice came through. Hello, who is this? Bailey Han said calmly. Your husband. Xia Dong was in a daze when she was woken up by the phone call. Her IQ was close to 0. She scratched her head and asked in confusion, Which husband? Bailey Han immediately exploded. What did she mean by which husband? How many husbands did she think she had? He shouted angrily. Xia Dong, open the door. Xia Dong was finally woken up by his shout. She sniffled and said, What are you doing here? Bailey Han's old face turned red. He was too embarrassed to admit that he felt sorry for her over the phone. He was here to apologize, which didn't match his brilliant image. He coughed and said, Anyway, open the door first. She bit her lip and said, Go back. I won't open the door. After saying this, she hung up the phone without hesitation. Soon, the phone rang again. When she saw that it was him, she hung up again. After hanging up twice in a row, she was annoyed. She turned off her phone and lay down to continue sleeping. Awesome novel, Song Shu 566. Chapter 182. Bailey Han's anger was burning fiercely. That damned woman actually dared to hang up on him. He couldn't be bothered to press the doorbell anymore. He banged on the door loudly. As he banged on the door, he shouted at the top of his lungs, Xia Dong, open the door. I won't open it. I won't open it. When Xia Dong heard his roar, she felt even more uncomfortable. She wrapped her head tightly with the blanket and pretended not to hear anything. Xiao Bao was woken up by the noise. He jumped out of bed in a daze and ran to the door. Through the peephole, he saw Bailey Han slamming the door angrily. He was also angry and shouted angrily, Bailey Han, why are you still looking for my mommy? Go away. Bailey Han stopped slamming the door and said, Bao Bao, Open the door for Daddy. Humph, you're not my daddy. How dare he bully his mommy? He didn't want to acknowledge him. Bailey Han was already drunk and had a terrible headache. He leaned against the wall and said, "Bow bow, stop fooling around. I have something to say to your mommy." "But my mommy doesn't want to see you." Xiao Bao was definitely on his mommy's side. Bailey Han decided to use force since the soft approach didn't work. He said fiercely, "Xiao Bao, I'm your daddy. Don't you want to be reunited with your family?" Xiao Bao snorted and said, "If you don't treat mommy well, I'd rather be like this." Bailey Han was helpless. He rubbed his eyebrows and said, "I won't do it again." "Xiao Bao, open the door. I'm drunk." He felt like a failure. In front of his son, he had completely lost his dignity as a father. Xiao Bao saw that his son's pained expression didn't seem fake. He hesitated for a moment before opening the door. Bailey Han walked in, his feet floating. Xiao Bao glared at him and said, "You're not allowed to bully my mommy again." Bailey Han patted his head. "Xiao Bao, call me daddy." "I don't want to. I haven't acknowledged you yet." Xiao Bao scowled and ran back to his room. Xia Dong did not hear a knock on the door for a long time. She poked her head out of the quilt and listened carefully. She still did not hear a sound. She was relieved but also a little disappointed. He must have gone back. After thinking about it, she was still a little worried. She took a shawl and put it on, intending to go out and take a look. Just as she opened the door, she bumped into a pair of dark and deep eyes. Bailey Han's tall and straight body was standing at the door of her room, his whole body exuding the smell of alcohol. She was stunned for a moment. When she came back to her senses, she quickly closed the door. However, her actions were still one step too slow. He held the door open with one hand. His handsome face was expressionless as he stared straight at her. His stare made her feel a little scared. She turned her face away. "Why are you here? Didn't I already make myself clear? If it's because of the divorce, I can go to the Civil Affairs Bureau with you tomorrow." Before she could finish speaking, he had already hugged her tightly. Bailey Han, who usually spoke in a cold voice, was guilty and helpless for the first time. He was simply like a rascal as he clung onto her tightly. "I'm not getting a divorce. I won't allow you to divorce me." His chest was broad and warm, and she could hear his heart beating very fast. She said indifferently, "You told me to scram, so I don't care about you. I'll just scram and never come back again." He lowered his head to look at her. Her eyes were lowered, her long eyelashes casting light shadows on her eyelids. Her whole body exuded a distant and indifferent aura. He panicked and his heart ached. He actually hurt her like that. "Wifey," I said it in a moment of anger. "Don't take it seriously." He hugged her very tightly, afraid that she would run away. When he wanted to coax her, she was his wifey. When he was angry, he told her to get lost. She no longer dared to trust him. Her eyes were covered with a layer of mist as she said softly, "Bailey Han, let's get a divorce. You see, I've done so many things to let you down. You can't forgive me. The gap between us is insurmountable. Rather than suffering in the future, it's better to end it early." He declared domineeringly, "I won't divorce you. Don't even think about it." "You hate me, don't you?" "Yes, I hate you. I hate you for hiding so many things from me." He held her face and looked at her tear-filled eyes. He said emotionally, "But I hate you even more for not making things clear. You're clearly carrying so much pain. Why don't you let me bear it with you?" Did she think that by hiding it from him, he would be happy? No, he wouldn't. He would only feel regret because the woman he loved deeply still didn't trust him enough and didn't dare to open her heart to him. She wiped the tears from the corner of her eyes and pushed his arm. "You go back first. Let me have some peace and quiet. You should think about it." She thought that he was drunk and said drunken words. Who knew, when she woke up tomorrow, he might tell her to get lost again. She was a timid person when it came to relationships. She didn't want to be hurt again when hope was rekindled. "I'm not leaving." How could he bear to let go of her warm and fragrant body? He was already drunk and groggy. He thought that he had explained it clearly, so he didn't force himself. He felt comfortable and relaxed. Xia Dong pushed him for a long time, but he didn't move. She looked up and saw that he had fallen asleep with her in his arms. She really wanted to leave him here, but she couldn't bear to do so. After dragging him to her bed with much difficulty, she found the clean pajamas that Mika Kito had left behind when she stayed here. After much effort, she helped him change into them and wiped him down with a towel. Xiaodong was so tired that she was panting. He was occupying her bed, so she had no choice but to move the foldable bed from the storage room over. After laying it down, she pulled out the pillow that she was used to sleeping on from under his head and stuffed a new pillow under his head. After tossing and turning, she could finally sleep. But she didn't feel sleepy anymore. Her eyes were full of energy as she looked at the moonlight outside the window. A lot of worries popped up in her head, but before she could sort them out, she heard Bailey Han calling her name in his drunken stupor. Xia Xia. Xia Xia. Xiaodong originally wanted to ignore him, but when she heard his voice, it sounded like he was in more and more pain. She turned on the bedside lamp and found that his forehead was full of sweat. His brows were tightly knitted and his eyes were tightly shut. But his expression was panicked as if he was having a nightmare. She couldn't help but reach out and wipe the sweat off his forehead. She didn't know that at this moment, Bailey Han's mind was filled with fragmented images. One of the images was of him answering a phone call while driving. On the other end of the phone was Xiaodong's voice. She said that she was at the airport and that she was leaving. Bailey Han stepped on the accelerator in exasperation and collided with an oncoming truck. He sat up in bed, his chest heaving violently as he anxiously called out, "Xia Xia, Xia Xia." Xiaodong didn't expect him to sit up so suddenly and was shocked. His eyes were still closed, so he didn't seem to be awake. She couldn't help but crawl over and hug him. Patting his back, she said, "It's okay. I'm here." He hugged her instinctively and hugged her tightly. He muttered unconsciously, "Don't leave, don't leave." Tears fell without warning. She choked and hugged him tightly. "Okay, I won't leave again. I won't leave again." She patted his back and coaxed him gently as if she was coaxing a child. He finally lay down again after much difficulty. She wanted to pull away, but he hugged her tightly. In order not to wake him up, she could only follow his movements and lie down beside him. Turning sideways, she looked at his high nose bridge, exquisite facial features, and furrowed brows. She couldn't help but reach out to rub the creases between his eyebrows. Leaning against his firm and broad chest, she didn't know how much time had passed before she actually fell asleep. The next morning, Xiaodong opened her eyes. Her brain wasn't completely awake yet, but she still felt that something was wrong. Her back was leaning against a warm wall, and there was a large hand that was obviously a man's wrapped around her chest. She turned her head stiffly, and a handsome face suddenly entered her line of sight. Bailey Han woke up the moment she turned around. His pair of dark eyes had the typical confusion of the morning, but very quickly, a gentle smile appeared on his face as he hugged her even tighter. The problem was that one of his hands was on her chest. Thus, this first level of strength attacked her chest. Xiaodong glared at him fiercely and gritted her little white teeth. "Take your hand back." Bailey Han blinked innocently. "I was just casually putting it there." What a soft touch. He couldn't help but rub it again. Xiaodong flew into a rage out of humiliation. She grabbed his naughty hand and threw it aside. She turned around to leave, but he stretched out his long arm and pulled her into his embrace. He leaned close to her ear and said in a husky voice, "Wifey, you slept with me last night. You have to be responsible for me." Xiaodong was furious. "Bailey Han, can you be any more shameless? You were the one who grabbed my hand last night and didn't let go. Also, you were drunk last night. I was kind enough to take you in. Since you're awake now, you can change your clothes and leave." He smirked and a mischievous smile flashed across his eyes. "Wifey, if you didn't mention it, I would have forgotten. Were you the one who changed my clothes?" She was furious. Who else do you think would have done it? She was exhausted just to change his clothes for him. He chuckled softly. "If that's the case, then you have to be responsible for me. You've even seen my body." Xiaodong was so angry that her words were stuck in her throat. After a long while, she squeezed out 2 words. "Shameless." He patted her head to soothe her. "So we can't get a divorce because you have to be responsible for me." After all this time, he had been waiting for her. She stared into his eyes and said sternly, Bailey Han, you were drunk last night, so you might not remember what I said. I'll say it again. Let's both be quiet and think about it. I've already thought it through. You lied to me and I hurt you. We're even now. So, wifey, let's live happily from now on. His heart still felt like it was being stabbed by a knife when he recalled the shameless words he had said to her before. Beauty novel, Hong Cha 866. You're tuning in to the Xiaofan's Wuxia Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.